Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order as we resume the committee meeting of the whole from November 4th. I'd asked one of my esteemed colleagues. Oh, yeah, we'll note that we do have 100% attendance present here this afternoon. And I'd asked one of my colleagues for the adoption of the agenda as presented today. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll go to a vote.
that the November 5th, 2025 agenda be adopted as presented, even though we're in recess.
Thank you. We'll go to vote.
It was just a Marta slam.
We'll note that motion passes 7-0. I don't believe there's any public input this afternoon. So with that, I'll turn it over to CAO Bill Fletcher for presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If you bear with me for 1 second, I'll just pull up my screen. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As you're well aware, yesterday at the November 4th Council meeting, the overall budget was presented to you. As discussed in that presentation, administration is proposing a 3.9% municipal property tax increase to maintain current services and advance council's priorities. The presentations that you will now see over the course of today and tomorrow provide an overview of the work administration performs on behalf of our community, along with related operating business cases and capital charters required to maintain said service levels or move forward initiatives related to the corporate business plan, obviously informed and guided by your strategic priorities. We have organized the presentations by executive portfolios. Over the course of these presentations, all city leadership and key staff will either be in the room or online to assist with responses to your questions. It's my pleasure now to begin by presenting the financial plan and 2026 budget for Council and the Office of the CAO. As you're aware, Council is the city's governing body, providing high-level direction and guidance, resulting in the development of corporate strategy and related policies, ensuring municipal powers are exercised appropriately, and ensuring municipal duties and functions are fully fulfilled. Highlights include strategic decision-making, a very good example of this being the decision to service the Lakeview Business District. In point of fact, this entire budget process is another good example of how governance manifests itself. Council represents residents locally through their engagement and decision-making and represents St. Albert interests regionally, provincially, and nationally through organizations such as Mid-Sized Cities Mayor's Caucus and the Alberta municipalities. Council also advocates to other orders of government on issues of import to St. Albert and the region. Council members sit on various committees and commissions, frankly too numerous to name here. Moving to the Office of the CAO. The executive leadership team consists of myself, the CAO, and the 3 managing directors who lead the organization, assisting with the provision of advice to Council and the translation of Council's strategic intent into corporate action. This function funds the offices of the Chief Administrative Officer and the offices of the Managing Directors. Simply put, our job is to provide our best decision quality information and recommendation when appropriate to enable Council's debate and decision-making. We also translate Council's direction and guidance at the governance level into practical priorities with attendant resource allocation, all while balancing the effectiveness of our outputs with the efficiency of our processes and procedures, always mindful of impact to residents. We are also responsible for setting the conditions for success at an administrative level today and into the future, ensuring that the organization, the health and safety of our people are set to carry on with the delivery of services and strategic intent. The Government, Indigenous Relations and Environment portfolio provides professional advice to advance Council's strategic interests and environmental priorities. They build and foster respectful relationships with the community, neighbors, and partners to support resilience. GIRE, as they're known, supports both Council and administration in our interactions and engagements with other orders of government, regional government bodies, and our neighbors. The mutually beneficial partnership with the Government of Alberta on the twinning of Ray Gibbon Drive is due in no small part to their coordination and advocacy support. St. Albert is blessed with an active urban Indigenous population and is working diligently to foster mutually beneficial relationships with area First Nations, the Métis Nation of Alberta, as well as Inuit communities. Our journey towards truth and reconciliation is also a primary focus of this department. Our support to recent installation of the Every Child Matters sidewalk and commemorative events marking the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation serve to demonstrate our sincerity. St. Albert is a city that prides itself on our green space, respect for nature, and responsible approach to development and conservation. I would be so bold as to assert that our green space and nature are foundational to our sense of identity as a community and the quality of life of our residents. Maintaining the wonder of our natural environment, enabling environmentally sound policies and city operations, and looking forward as St. Albert adapts to our evolving natural environment are key lines of effort. One only has to look out the window to see the results. Legal, legislative, and record services provide leadership, governance support, and advice to council, administration, and the public. As experts in legislative and legal matters and records management, they ensure consistency and compliance to support effective decision-making. Some good examples of this are day-to-day legislative supporting endeavors, organizing and supporting council and committee meetings, ensuring full compliance with the Municipal Government Act and timely provision of information to council and the public on council matters. It is this team, in fact, that planned and conducted the recent municipal election. As you are no doubt aware, it is essential that the business of administration be grounded in sound, fulsome legal advice, fact, spanning the entirety of our organization. I will not or cannot, in fact, provide a concrete example given the nature of legal advice because of solicitor-client privilege, but suffice to say that we are very well served. Our information and knowledge management approach, as we switch to records management, aims to both enhance efficiency and ensure regulation compliance, and is a significant endeavor that falls under this department, and our recent records retention guidance and ongoing digitalization efforts, say that 7 times fast, reflect this reality. Council and executive support. Finally, last but not least, the team consists of administrative assistants and executive assistants to support you as council and the executive team. Throughout your time on council, you will come to appreciate all their hard work and dedication, as I do every day. This portfolio does not have any operating nor capital budget asks, so I will move on to the 2026 base budget summary. Now, as I turn to the base budget summary as previously indicated, it's important to note that the 2026 budgets now also include emergency management due to a recent reorganization. Please note these numbers do not include the legal, legislative, and record services nor government, Indigenous relations, and environment files whose financial information will be included in Diane McMorty's presentation to follow, based on the structure of both our budget and financial plan. This slide shows the overall impact of the 2026 proposed budget as compared to the 2025 revised budget. For council, the net impact is an increase of $98,000 and is mainly due to the transition of council from part-time to full-time. For executive leadership, the net impact is an increase of $35,000, primarily a result of annualization of salary costs and an improved 2025 position. Pending your questions, this concludes my portion of today's presentation.
Open it up to council for any questions. Councillor Hughes.
Okay, so just a quick question. We're talking about legal with the new position. I'm going to look at you, Marta, because you're the one. So, or I'll look at you, Mr. Fletcher. We'll just share. Okay, so I thought we already hired. We put forward, that was the approved business case, right? So we're just reminding ourselves about that. Council already approved that legal position. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I think that was what I had in my notes, and I was like, yeah, we're all good then. So, and has that person already been hired?
No, that will take effect in 2026. So we'll be hiring in 2026.
But right away, I think, right?
No, so the funds, so we got the full FTE starting in 2026, but the funds we don't get allocated till later. And so what we did was we have a person on leave. So we hired a permanent person to replace the person on leave. And when the person on leave returns, upon their return, we will be a full complement. So there won't actually be a recruitment. We're just waiting for them to return from their leave now in 2026.
Okay, it's all coming back to me now. So just for everybody who's new, that's what we did. And really that's been pre-approved. So it's not really up for debate for pre-approval or like, I'm not challenging the decision, but just for anybody who's news information, like we can't really unapprove it, right? It's just for information only.
We would certainly recommend you don't unapprove it.
I'm not
yes,
fine.
but absolutely, you are correct, Councillor. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, thanks. Mayor, just in our material, under executive leadership, it has one position, the emergency management coordinator. Is this the time to ask that question now in relation to that position or wait?
That would actually fall under Ms. McBordy when she
Okay,
presents.
so I'll wait until that one happens. Okay, it just the way it is it says executive leadership is also. Okay, thank you. I'll wait, Mayor.
There's no other questions. We can move to the next presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I'm happy to present the Corporate and Emergency Services Plan and Budget to you today. The Corporate Services team provides a variety of operational, I should turn my camera on, sorry. Oh, now I can't. Sorry, give me 1 second here. Does that do it? Nope, that does not do it. Okay, hold on, I have to stop sharing for a second.
Before, Mayor, if it's okay, I'm just wondering, are we doing 4.2 like each section and asking for questions? Or are you're not gonna do all 4 things at once, right? Or,
Yes, my intent was to go through the whole portfolio and then it's not a very long presentation, so.
okay, thanks.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. So the corporate services team provides a variety of operational and strategic support to the organization to enable the delivery of high quality services to the community. The emergency services team continues to keep our community safe through the provision of fire and emergency medical services and policing, which includes the city's municipal enforcement branch, which serves as liaison with and works alongside the St. Albert detachment of the RCMP. The Emergency Management Branch works with the entire organization to ensure we are ready and able to respond to significant incidents. Further into the presentation, we'll discuss the corporate financing function, which includes the portion of the tax levy that's used to support required debt payments, provides contributions to municipal capital reserves and projects, and also includes common corporate revenues and expenses such as interest income, bank fees, and lease expenses. Why is this not advancing? Oh, there we go. She's technologically challenged today. So we'll first start off with the corporate services portfolio. So corporate services provides strategic guidance, planning, advice, and resources to council and the corporation to support the city's initiatives today and in the future for the benefit of St. Albert. The following departments are funded through this portfolio. Communications and Public Affairs, who employ strategic unified approach to drive engagement, facilitate opportunities for active participation, and proactively enhance the city's reputation. They collaborate and identify innovative solutions to meet the needs of staff and St. Albertans. The Financial and Strategic Services Department provides strategic planning, financial leadership and management for the organization and the community through guidance, reviews and analytics, innovative solutions, and advice to enable sound decision-making. As stewards of the city's strategic framework, they ensure plans are developed and aligned to enable operational excellence and financial sustainability while managing risks. The Human Resources and Safety Department advises on and delivers people-centric services and solutions that support internal clients and the City of St. Albert to achieve our organizational goals. And Information Technology provides leadership, IT security and governance, application and hardware management and support services, and solutions that address the technology needs of the City of St. Albert in order to achieve our operational and strategic goals. So the general government budget function includes the 4 departments in my corporate services portfolio, along with economic development, legal, legislative, and record services, and government and Indigenous relations and environment. For general government, the net impact is an increase of 109,000 and is a result of the following components. So on the revenue side, we have a $301,000 decrease in conditional grants due to the reduction in the 2026 Clean Energy Improvement Program grant, or CEAP. 563,000 decrease in transfer from reserves due to a one-time transfer for the 2025 municipal election. And on the expense side, we have 473,000 increase in salaries, wages, and benefits due to annualization of salary costs and approved 2025 FTEs, which equates to approximately 2.3%. 955,000 decrease in contracted and general services due to expenses related to the municipal election and the CEAP grant, as well as savings in insurance costs, offset by increases in IT licenses and ongoing funds for the Internal Audit Steering Committee. 169,000 decrease in materials, goods, supplies, and utilities due to one-time expenses related to the municipal election. So we'll now move on to the emergency services functional area. So emergency services enhances the quality of life of our residents and visitors by preserving the peace, preventing offensives, and protecting life, property, and the environment through planning, preparedness, and response. Fire Services provides 24-hour fire, rescue, medical, and dispatch services to the City of St. Albert. The operational staff of the St. Albert Fire Service are also trained to respond to water and ice incidents as well as wildland fires. The St. Albert Fire Service also serves the community through the delivery of fire prevention services, which includes fire permitted inspections, building and development permitting, as well as fire safety education that is delivered in schools and at community events. As an integrated service, the operations staff within the service are also trained paramedics and provide ambulance services to our residents through a contract with Alberta Health Services. In municipal enforcement, our peace officers enforce the Alberta Traffic Safety Act and Transportation of Dangerous Goods legislation. They are also responsible for enforcing various other municipal bylaws and provincial statutes, such as the Animal and Community Standards Bylaw and portions of the Gaming and Liquor Act and Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act, to name a few. Through the Municipal Police Services Agreement with the Government of Canada, the RCMP keep our community safe through the units of general duty, community policing, traffic, drugs, crime reduction, and general investigation. This functional area is also responsible for ensuring that the city is prepared for emergencies that may happen at any time. Emergency management oversees the development and implementation of plans and programs, as well as training of staff in order to prepare for, respond to, and recover from all potential hazards, including natural disasters and technological or human-caused incidents. For emergency services, the net impact is an increase of 746,000 and is a result of 155,000 decrease in fines due to lower photo enforcement revenue, offset by an increase in traffic ticket revenue. 136,000 increase in other revenue due to the Alberta Health Services ambulance contract inflationary increase. For expenses, 274,000 increase in salaries due to annualization of salary costs and approved 2025 FTEs, and a $540,000 increase in purchases from other governments due to the increase in the RCMP contract. So we'll now move on to the corporate financing function. So this again is the area of the budget that includes the portion of the tax levy used to support required debt payments, provides contributions to municipal capital reserves and projects, and also includes common corporate revenues and expenses such as interest income, bank fees, and lease expenses. This slide shows the overall impact for the 2026 proposed budget as compared to 25. The net impact is an increase of just under 3.5 million and is mainly due to just under 2 million increase due to new assessment growth revenue that's applied against the base. 500,000 increase in interest income based on increased rates, increased investment base, and investments in longer term instruments. $395,000 increase in sales and user fees for the utility administration fee based on projected corporate assumptions. $222,000 increase in franchise fee contracts due to higher rates and growth projections by utility companies. $814,000 decrease in transfer to and from reserves due to the reduction in the offsite levy payments for Range Road 260. So this was a debt payment that was originally approved to come from the offsite levy recovery fund. And so because that debenture is now paid off, we don't need to pull that revenue from that reserve. On the expense side, $4 million increase in other expenditures for the corporate contingency. $1.3 million increase in transfer to and from reserves for the infrastructure funding strategy, so the 1.5% for RMR. $590,000 increase in bank charges and short-term interest due to higher interest revenue transferred to reserves and deferred revenue balances. $848,000 increase in debenture interest due to new debentures. And $865,000 decrease in principal repayments due to the Service Place and Range Road 260 debentures retiring in 2025, offset by new debentures for North St. Albert Trail, Transit Garage, Fire Hall 4, and Villeneuve Road. So we're now going to move on to the resource requirements for this functional area for 2026. So there are 9 business cases to maintain services and to grow in this functional area. The communications advisor position addresses capacity concerns within communications resulting from both growth of the city and city programming, as well as greatly increased complexity of marketing and communications resulting from multiple technological and social developments. In order to maintain services, the emergency management coordinator role will improve organizational readiness, ensure compliance with emergency legislation, and enhance coordination during emergency situations. This position will lead the development, coordination, and implementation of emergency management plans, training, and response strategies across departments and partner agencies. Fire Hall 4 firefighters include 6 FTEs to staff our newest fire hall scheduled to open in 2027. Once hired, these personnel are anticipated to complete training by the fall of 2026 and achieve nearly a year of operational experience prior to the new station opening. The IT business analyst, business process automation, and IT projects position will support city operations through identification and documentation of business requirements and business processes for technology solutions, ensuring requirements are understood. Working collaboratively with staff, they support both the business and technical aspects of existing and new technology solutions. The project and change management advisor will lead and or provide change management advice for high profile and cross-departmental corporate projects to ensure successful completion of the desired outcomes. These projects are often corporate business plan projects to advance and or achieve council or organizational excellence priorities. The policing front counter clerk business case addresses customer service and employee well-being at the Maloney Place front counter at the RCMP detachment. By combining the front counter clerk and a fingerprint clerk, as well as adding a 0.44 of a permanent FTE. The review of policing services ask is a result of a council motion to prepare a business case to conduct a review of policing services in St. Albert, focusing on community needs, policing models, including structure, opportunities for sub-regional or regional collaboration, and preparedness to meet potential future policing service delivery models. This work will impact and inform the community well-being long-term strategy that is scheduled to start in 2026. So this concludes my presentation, and my team is online and would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mackay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start off. Just starting off where I ended there. In relation to the emergency management coordinator's position, can you explain the difference between that and what Mr. Pickford currently does?
Yeah, so our manager of emergency management, as you mentioned, is Mark Pickford, and we have a desire for another coordinator position underneath it that really helps action a lot of the strategies and plans that the manager of emergency management is helping develop. We're also doing a lot of work in the community as well, starting to engage with a lot of groups to improve preparedness. So it's just that entire branch right now is again just it's one permanent position and then this new permanent position that we're looking for that's managing all of that.
So from a hierarchical position, would they be equivalent then? Or would Mr. Pickford, this position would report to Mr. Pickford in that?
That is correct. This position reports to
Okay,
Mr.
so it would, you're looking for somebody with similar abilities, but just in relation to kind of more of just creating a structure to take on some of the added workload, or?
Yeah, and I would say it would be more on the execution side versus the strategy side.
Then at the front counter position, the description, so you've got a part-time casual position, or how is this? Because you've got it a 0.44, and then you've got a existing front counter clerk. Is this going to create 3 front counter clerks then, rather up from 2, or how is? I was just kind of curious as to where the 0.44, are we combining 2 existing positions to create 1 and just needing a little top up, or how is that working?
I'm going to just defer that question to Mr. Giesbrecht.
Hi, thank you for the question. Yeah, so we currently have a 0.56 part-time fingerprint clerk, and 0.44 would then increase that to a 1.0 FTE. The end result will mean that we have 3 front counter clerks, and the front counter clerk duties will be both fingerprint services as well as front counter duties.
So the existing 2 front counter clerks can also do fingerprinting?
Yes, that will be the,
Actually, okay, then that clarifies. I wasn't sure if you just had one specialized position that just dealt with all of the criminal record checks, fingerprinting, or if that was now going to be spread across 3.
so criminal record checks are currently handled by the front counter clerks for the most part, and then we have some other support staff within the detachment that help support that when they can. The 0.56 fingerprint clerk right now only does fingerprints, typically the civilian side fingerprints. So by combining these, it's just we're a little bit more efficient. We can provide breaks to the front counter clerks to rotate through to provide fingerprint services, and have a little bit more business continuity and backup in terms of all the duties that are needed in that area.
There's a little bit of statistics in the background report. Aaron, can you tell me, are we seeing a substantial increase in the civilian criminal record checks requests? Are we starting to really get bumped back up into large numbers?
We haven't bounced back completely from pre-COVID, but we're getting close. So it is starting to come up. Pre-COVID, we were quite a few, and then the huge drop. But now it is starting to climb back up. I could provide, if later on in the presentation, or if we want to do a BIR, I could provide kind of a history of statistics over the last couple of years on where we are with total fingerprints and total criminal record.
Yeah, not for today. If I probably will submit a BIR in relation to it, and I appreciate that. I just trying to get an idea. I was imagining that I'd probably what are we current charging and things like that, but I'll specify that. The last question I have is, you identified some of the impacts from the election, and when are we going to actually get a final tally as to what our election expenses are?
I will just defer that to Ms. Caulfield.
So we are planning, well, we're in the phase of paying all of the invoices and closing everything out. So we expect that to take until the end of this year. And we are hoping to have everything consolidated in Q1 of 2026 regarding expenses and how much everything cost.
So from a financial, like from a ability to cover that, or we'll have that in, or factoring that into the budget then? I mean, I'm not anticipating it going to be, well, I don't know what I'm.
Yeah, so I don't believe there are any 2026 costs that will be germane to the election. They should be covered in year.
And the only thing that I will add is so of course the election last year was also funded through some additional sources because we hadn't planned for it in the 25 budget. So council had approved some additional resources. But now from an ongoing perspective, how we plan for the election is that we actually contribute a certain amount every year so that by year 4, we have enough to cover the election. So we have had to increase our reserve transfer on an annual basis, which we started actually in 2025. We did it as part of a budget adjustment. So we've had to increase our reserve transfer from $60,000 a year up to $250,000 a year. But that impact would have actually hit last year's budget, so it doesn't impact this year's budget.
Okay, I had one other question related to firefighters and whenever I talk about firefighters, it goes out of my head here. So I'll remember it and I'll bring it back.
Thank you, Councillor Mackay. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. So just to the election, I had it as well. You took my question, Ken, it's okay. So I know, because I know we're doing it into the reserves each 4 years, but you said that, so for next year, will we be doing the revision? That's what you said? Because it may not be that require $1 million to do it. And so then the amount going to the reserves should be adjusted accordingly. So I'm assuming that'll be for next year's budget that we'd be revisiting that decision?
We certainly have the opportunity to revisit once we have a sort of a final accounting of the actual costs from this
Yeah.
election. We based our transfer based on what we were estimating this election to cost. So come next year, once we have a final accounting of the terms, we can certainly look at that and make sure that we have the appropriate transfer going forward.
Makes sense. So the fire hall, how are we doing on the fire hall? Like, I know you're saying it has in here estimated 2027. Are we on schedule to breaking dirt to meet that goal, or are we behind, or how are we doing?
I think I would probably direct that to either Miss George or to Adrian. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Hughes. Actually, we have a memorandum that is almost ready to be circulated to council, which gives an update on the status of the work. So the design is very close.
I guess, so are we looking to still be on track with the 2027 completion data then, or are we?
Yes, that's my understanding, is that construction would begin in early 26 and would finish in late 27.
So late 27. So I guess I'm just wondering, because I know the timing is, I know they need the 6 to 7 months of training. But do we actually need them at the beginning of, like, the hire for April, if it's not gonna be finished till end of 2027, and it might be 2028, like, things don't always happen on schedule.
Yeah, certainly Mr. Giesbrecht can jump in. I think, there's the hiring, and candidly, hiring firefighters is a bit of a cutthroat business, right? There's lots of competition across the region. And so, being able to work that deliberately to get the folks we need. And then the big muscle movement is to train them to ensure that not only are they trained, but then they also have a little experience under the belt before they have to staff the new building. Mr. Giesbrecht, if you want to add to anything on that, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that I think it was 19 total that was required to resource Fire Hall 4. There's 11 more to hire to bring that staffing up, and this is that 6. So yeah, we've already hired some in order to get to that training completed, so that we're fully prepared and have qualified, experienced, trained staff ready to go for Fire Hall 4.
So, and because I know, yeah, I remember we have to hire more, so there's gonna be another ask next year, assuming everything is on schedule.
That's correct.
And will those guys be able, I guess they'll have the full, some, like, we approve them next year, and then they'd basically be trained and then right out of the gate.
They would, but there'd be a critical mass already in order
Right.
to enable that integration. Yeah.
Okay. My only concern is just that with the timing, I know we're saying we're really sure about 2027 at this moment, but we've been really sure since 2022 that this guy's gonna be the following year, and so I just, like, how confident are we at this point? Because we're into design now. I know you're gonna give me the memo and I'm gonna be like, Adrian, you already told me everything, but like, how are we like, we're confident this time that it's gonna be done, or is there still opportunity for more slippage to completion?
I would say at this time, they feel fairly confident in the date provided, which is the end of 27.
Okay. So I guess what I'm wondering, I understand for the new position for the emergency services person. So you're saying, okay, we have one guy who's doing it, but like, when we're not in an emergency, it's not, like, I'm just wondering, because this is like, I feel like this is like proactive in some ways, the second position. And I'm just trying to figure out for the first person, they can't do the proactive stuff right now. That FTE, like, I know they do desktop things, they do simulations, and we do all that kind of stuff. I get that, but they can't take on that additional responsibility. when we're not
So
emergency?
honestly, and certainly Mr. Morty can jump in. We've actually had a seconded person in that for the last year.
Okay,
And so that was done internally. We took that person away from their primary roles and responsibilities. And, you know, I certainly understand the genesis of your question, but I think the hard work is actually in the preparation as opposed to the execution, because by then it's too late. And so I would say, you know, that's everything from updating our administrative directives and policies, honestly, liaison with regional partners and even crafting just the training plan, both for the IMT personnel and then collectively is not an insignificant endeavor. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add is that as we were developing this business case as well, we also did a lot of benchmarking kind of across other communities of our size. And actually, we're behind. I'm not going to say we're behind it. We're actually far ahead. We've been recognized provincially for our emergency management program, which is quite a feat actually with the staff that we have running it. Most other municipalities have 3 to 4 to 5 people for communities of our size fulfilling those roles. The area that we still have a significant gap in is the emergency social services side to do some of that proactive planning. We have some great people in our FCSS department that are backfilling that role as best as we can. But that's an area that we're still a little short in. So this second person will actually help kind of fill the gap on that side as well.
okay.
It's also, sorry, not to put too fine a point on it. It's also a business continuity issue when you're one of one, when someone goes on leave or God forbid life happens, right? You know, you've got nothing to backfill.
So when I look on page, what is it, 69, and we have just the function by staffing, and it has emergency services as a -1. And I'm trying to figure out what that meant. So, because we have, yeah, just like we have all of them, executive leadership +1, general government +1. We have 2 that are pre-approved. I get that. Emergency services says -1.
Because what we did, that was part of the reorganization. And so
Okay.
the emergency services used to be reporting to the director of emergency services. They now
Okay.
report directly to Ms. McBorney.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm assuming that utility service staff is just, it went into public operations and from utility services? Good. Okay, that was that one. Just give me 1 second here. Because I'm all over the place. You know what? I'm gonna let somebody else ask a question, and then if they don't answer, I'll come back. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll go, Councillor Clark.
So this emergency services training officer speaks to fire and medical training. Do we have a designated fire training facility that we utilize?
No, the city of St. Albert doesn't. We have typically utilized an Edmonton-based facility for our live fire training.
Okay, do we have a contract with them or is it just at will?
Yeah, it's sort of as we need it. And from what I understand, the access to that facility is starting to get strained in terms of us being able to get in for that live fire training. But the training pieces as well involve a lot more than just live fire training. Like there's a lot of training that happens outside of that live fire as well, that this position will help support just with the growth of our members.
Okay, are there other training facilities that we could utilize in the region besides Edmonton? Does anyone else have? No?
Yeah, I'm going to actually turn that over to Mr. Giesbrecht and see if he can respond to that.
I believe there is, and I believe St. Albert does utilize those as needed, but I'd have to take that back as a BIR to get specifics as to how often other regional centers are used or areas. Because it's not, I don't think it's just about the center or the facility, but it could be, you know, certain fields and certain properties for certain types of training.
Thank you. And in that same realm, you talk about mental health coordination. Do we have a designated individual for emergency services for mental health support? Or is that through their plan, their health plan?
Yeah, I will allow let Mr. Giesbrecht added to this as well. So we have had or been trialing some a temporary position with regards to that, and the plan is to be able to, within the training officer scope of work, that mental health coordination functions are able to be incorporated in with that. So that is the intent as we add in this new position, that those coordination functions where they belong with the bargaining unit. Some of those functions belong with the bargaining unit for sure. Will be blended into that plan. And I don't know, Mr. Giesbrecht, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think all I could add is right now we do have a term position that we're looking at filling some of those roles. And part of that term position is also going to help identify the breakout of the roles in terms of, you know, which ones remain within the bargaining unit and which ones remain outside of the bargaining unit for consideration. But what this added position does is it provides a little bit more capacity and ability for the city to look at that totality of all the mental health coordination services that are required for the members and adjust and add those duties to meet all those gaps.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight that this is about coordination of access. So we also have our health and safety team who do provide support to first responders as well. And so this would be a bespoke resource to look at some of the unique requirements I would submit across the board. Though not strictly related to the business case ask, I think it's also useful context to say council actually sponsored a resolution through Alberta municipalities last year calling on government of Alberta to increase support to municipal first responders with respect to mental health. To date, there's been no resolution of that, but that's also in play.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions for now.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Councillor Bermanski, please.
Thank you. Through the mayor to administration. Following up on a few more questions to the previous questions. In both the communications advisor and the IT business analyst, it's mentioned that or in the emergency management, the communications and the training role, there's already someone in those positions that are temporarily there. And then it shows a projection of the 91.5 going to 118 and then 122 in 2 years from now, emergency management 100 to 131 to 133. Are they at that 91 point right now as temporarily? And where is that funded from?
Yeah, so you're correct. So there is in some of those roles, there is temporary people in those roles right now. The budget ask is based on our budget guiding principles policy, where we don't start the permanent funding of the position until April 1st. So that's the difference that you're seeing the lower amount in 26 and then the annualized amount into 27. So we would basically be continuing to fund that person through to that April 1st date through our general operating budget until we get a permanency in that role.
Okay, so there's no money in the general operating any longer for any of those temporary positions. Is that what you're saying?
We would be relying on accessing other vacancy savings to help cover those for that 3 months until we have that permanent role.
Okay, that's all my question. Thank you.
Councillor Patrick.
You mentioned earlier that there's a 301,000 decrease in the clean energy grant program. I'm just wondering, will that decrease dramatically impact that program? And if it does, is there other grant sources in mind to help step in and support that?
Thank you for the question. I'm going to just refer that over to Mr. Dooley.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So in essence, this just we had sort of a total of just over $4 million in the SEEP program overall that's been provided through loans or grants from FCM, and basically we're just working through the total allocation of that. So I think to date we've spent basically we've got sorry, just bear with me here a second. Yeah, so we've got 412,000 that we plan on working through next year, and then I think we've got just over $100,000 in 27 and 28, and then it's essentially we've expended everything with respect to that program. One of the things we're working on sort of behind the scenes is doing some research on what the future of that looks like once we've worked through expending everything that we've received from FCM.
Thank you. I just had one more question, and I just wanted to be a bit more clear. Councillor Clark mentioned, asked if there was like a mental health support for emergency workers. And I'm just unclear. So do we have one designated currently right now? And do we also have a workplace like a wellness program that's in addition to what their like benefits would cover for them? So if emergency workers needed additional, let's say, counseling for mental health services, would we have a wellness program already in place?
Thank you for the question. So, so I'll start by saying that there is different types of support for our emergency first responders. I know they do have like a peer support team. Again, this mental health coordination, to Mr. Fletcher's point too, we have to remember that's more about the coordination versus the actual supplying of mental health supports. But I wanted to potentially invite Mr. Stovall from our Human Resources Department to talk about what other things may be available.
Good afternoon, Council. So the IFF has a collective agreement and they've negotiated the benefits for their employees. For psychological supports, that currently sits at $750 per member. As Diane alluded, we also have additional supports through EFAP and a peer support program in the event of crisis for a first responder. And one other thing. We also actually have a flexible spending account that could be allocated to a health spending account portion that could be used for psychological services as well. And that's $350 per permanent employee.
Okay, sorry, so $750 for each, and then if they wanted additional, they could use their health spending account. But that would also take away from like if they wanted to buy something else with their health spending, right?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Will Councillor Cortesh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to administration. I just want to follow up on a couple of Councillor Hughes's questions first. The emergency services position, you'd indicated that you've essentially had two folks working in that department for the last little while, somebody being seconded. And so I guess my question was, has that been working? Are they seconded from a position? There's no offsetting cost? You can't reallocate those resources from that seconded position to the emergency services position?
Yes, we did borrow an employee that was originally in another city department, but that position has also had to have been backfilled. So unfortunately, there's no opportunity to sort of transfer budget from one to the other because the services in the original area are still muchly needed. So that position has been backfilled as well.
Okay. And then I also had some questions. The firefighters, maybe just don't have the same background as some of the incumbents here, but I was trying to follow the line of questioning there. So this is to staff the future fire hall that's going to open in 2027. And I think I heard Mr. Giesbrecht say 19 firefighters to staff that. There's 6 in this budget. And what were the numbers again? Sorry, on the staffing of that fire hall?
Yeah, so the original business case called for the addition of 30 frontline firefighters. And up until now, we've hired 19. We have budget for 19. We're asking for 6 this year, and the remaining 5 will be the ask for next year to bring us up to a total of 30.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I missed a couple numbers there. Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have is with respect to photo radar revenue. You'd indicated during your presentation, Ms. McMurdy, that there's a decrease obviously in photo radar revenue from probably the provincial changes, but an offsetting increase in enforcement fines. And what were those numbers again, or how much is?
I can find the numbers again. Mr.
Sure.
Giesbrecht might be able to also provide some context, but just give me a second here.
And then while you're looking for, I guess where I'm going with this is that a decision that's been made? We don't have photo enforcement anymore, so we've had to step up enforcement using, municipal enforcement officers and RCMP to try and compensate for some of that enforcement that's now lacking?
Yeah, I think Mr. Giesbeck could certainly jump in on this, but you know, we still do have automatic traffic enforcement. It's very targeted and in line with direction out of the provincial government about where and when you can use automated traffic enforcement, right? And I know that we're talking about a budget, so we kind of talk about revenues and fines, but at the end of the day, it's a public safety good, right? At the end of the day, regardless of what the number is. And yes, you know, so certainly, you know, the team across municipal enforcement and the RCMP have am doing their level best, right, to try and sort of backfill, I guess, some of the shortfall in that. Obviously, competing demands. I'll stop there because I'm starting to tread on thin ice in terms of my level of expertise and turn it over to Mr. Giesbrecht.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think everything you said there, Bill, was correct. I think what I can add to the matter is that in 2026, essentially we have not projected any revenue coming in from photo enforcement. When we went to council, committee of the whole on this matter on continuing or not continuing photo enforcement, because of the changing environment and field as to what the outcomes of this significant change in service delivery is going to be, we've decided to propose zero revenue coming in for 2026. As we wait and see what this change looks like, there may very well be some net revenue realized, which then would get forecasted, and then the new norm is essentially set, where we could then potentially forecast what 2027 looks like. But there is some risk of putting any revenue in there, given the significant reduction that we've had to do. So photo enforcement will only be in playground zones, school zones, and construction zones. And then there's a corresponding cost with the contractor to provide those services. And then there's a significant amount of revenue that the province of Alberta takes as well. The offsetting for the municipal enforcement and RCMP officers, 100%, they've been doing extra work, increasing their proactive enforcement in these areas. But as Bill had mentioned, as time allows, and then we do have a little bit of an overtime program where we provide some overtime to allow officers to provide this service. But that essentially goes at cost neutral as well, maybe a little bit of revenue generation, not the purpose, but it does cover the costs in terms of the revenue offsetting the overtime cost.
Yeah, but again, as Mr. Fletcher indicated, I guess that takes away from other responsibilities that they have. I don't know if is there a straight line? If we were to hire more municipal enforcement officers to make up for the lack of enforcement from photo radar, I'm going to suppose that I don't know how you do that calculation. Is there a ratio? Do they bring in they're not going to bring in the cost of their salary if we hire a new municipal enforcement officer. I'm just thinking about how we make up for that lack of enforcement. We've heard from a lot of residents that there's traffic safety concerns. Now there's no photo radar to put in some of those areas. And so that's kind of, I'm just thinking ahead to what that looks like in terms of business cases for new municipal enforcement officers as it relates to traffic enforcement revenue.
Yeah, we could certainly put a BIR together. That some of those options were provided to committee of the whole this fall on what some of our assumptions have made in terms of if you hire one or two more municipal enforcement officers, what is that corresponding net cost of revenue? I want to say, again, don't quote me, I can clarify this in a BIR, but I want to say it's probably around $50,000 a year in revenue is what we projected, whereas the cost is for an officer is closer to 120,000, so about 50%. And there's a number of reasons for that. But again, we can articulate that stuff into a BIR if you wish.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. That's it for now.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Okay, a couple things. So fire hall number 4, when I go to the debt, it says for 2028, we're to 21,400. So I'm on page 66. But I don't think we approved 21,000 for the fire hall unless we went up to 21 grand.
If you just remember, that also included all of the vehicles as well as the fire hall. And then we
Okay.
had the additional budget motion to increase the budget by the extra.
Okay, so this is including the other previously approved motions as
Yes.
well on that. Okay. Now, but did we go into debt for those? Like we actually,
For
Yeah.
the vehicles as well, yes, we bundled it all together as a package for Fire Hall 4.
okay. So the policing one, I understand the rationale for the policing because the big challenge, I think, is the security clearance as we're going through temporary staff and moving through security clearances, and it's just difficult to staff that position. But I'm wondering the pot of money to pay for the temporary people, like did we actually reduce that pot of money accordingly to address the fact that that person's going permanent?
I will give that to Mr. Giesbrecht.
No, we didn't. We didn't do that yet because this position is about, depending on, similar to the photo enforcement, where it's kind of a change in the program, where we're now going to have 3 front counter clerks providing all those services. One of the things we wanted to do is see what that means in terms of savings of casual dollars, and then from there, predict what that offsetting could be going into 2027.
So are
We
we,
don't know the exact number, I guess is the short answer.
Okay.
And then just to add, Councillor Hughes, a lot of these temporary positions have been approved through council through year-end carry forwards. And so they were council approved. They weren't positions that when we're hearing all these positions were temporary filled, those were, the majority of them are through council approved carry forward dollars that were then allocated and carried into the next year.
so this position we approved on a previous budget through a council carry forward? Like, and we've been carrying it forward? Because the impression I got was it was just coming out of some,
We'll double check on this particular one, but a lot of the ones being mentioned today were temporary coverage have been approved through carry forwards, but we'll check into this specific one.
okay, because even if it's done through a carry forward, then it was still, like there's still, the carry forward still be operating, right? So then there's still be an opportunity to actually address it. I guess, are we thinking we actually need 3 FTEs plus casual? Is that the concern or? Or why would we be, because we know how much we're spending on casual. Or how much we've budgeted for casual, even if the person isn't in there all the time. And we would know how much that we're putting into overtime for people who went between casual positions if they quit. So I'm just trying to figure out what would be required for more time unless we're thinking we need 3 plus.
We certainly need more than 3 full-time people to provide the services for the RCMP front counter and fingerprint. There will always be an offsetting unless we significantly increase it further with permanent staff. There will be a need for casual support for those services, just vacation, sick leave, medical leaves, all kinds of different leaves that occur. The total number of hours provided at the front counter, it's 6 days a week, half days on Saturdays, extended hours on Sundays. 3 full-time employees cannot provide that whole entire realm. What going to 3 employees does is for those permanent staff provides a little bit of relief in terms of duties, and then increases our expertise in our business continuity and stability to rely less on casuals.
So how many people would we have there, including the casual equivalents? Like I'm assuming like, because I'm looking at the numbers you have to fill. And I'm guessing you have to have at least 5 or 6 like equivalents of FTEs. So we have 2 and then we might be working through 4 on casuals.
Yeah, so currently right now, I want to say we probably have 5 casuals listed for our front counter. Their availability varies and those casual numbers vary throughout the year. So you may train somebody, bring them in, they provide a few hours a month, and then something changes in their life where they're not able to provide those services anymore. So then we have to recruit and find somebody else. It's a constant evolution flow. So it's hard to provide that. What I could be able to provide in the BIR is what is the total number of permanent FTEs that are required for that total hours of services at the front counter if we wanted to provide with permanent full-time staff. Moving that direction would certainly be an expense and cost a little bit more than what probably quite a bit more than what the current service delivery model is.
Okay, actually, I'd like to have that as a BIR. I'm going to try to write. I'm going to try to make it sound good so you understand what I'm talking about, Aaron, but since we had this conversation, you should know what I'm asking for. So because I can hear the challenges you're having with trying to deal with casual staff and just the inconsistencies. So what I would love to have is just, like, I feel like we're trying to Band-Aid this solution. You're coming forward and saying, I need half an FTE, but the reality is you need more than half an FTE. But I'm also thinking there might be an opportunity to offset some of those costs with, now we don't need as many casual, now we won't need as much overtime, and it actually might not be as bad as we're thinking if we just looked at those numbers. And it would give you a bit more consistency for your planning. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to try to write that out so it sounds intelligent, but that's what I'm looking for is just like, what are your actual costs as a result of this current human resource modeling? And and how many would you need so that this would no longer be such a stressor? Because I recognize this is a huge stressor trying to man this front desk effectively. So we'll put that as a BIR. Eventually you'll see it. That's what I'm looking for there. Because it's a security clearance, man. That's the hardest part, right? Okay, so let me just see. I'm going to stop and let Mayor, if you want to go, and I'll come back after that.
Thank you. Just a question regarding the policing services review and the historical, maybe some context around that, given the change, potential change in service delivery provincially. Is that still like, would it be something we maybe want to pause until we have a better understanding provincially what that's going to look like?
I certainly offered, because this was a motion from Councillor Mackay, if he wanted to jump in. I think, again, the way that we've sort of drafted the terms of reference or the approach to it, to a degree, it's agnostic as to what color uniform provides a service, right? I think, we would look at what the conditions are to transition if we had to, but it's really about what is the right approach, structure, and competencies mix to deliver policing for St. Albert in the coming years, right? And in light of a potential transition, right, what would that look like, and what do we need to do to be prepared? I think Councillor Mackay, if you wanted to add anything to that for your perspective.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mayor, or Mr. Gujbek could also jump in. I think that, right now it's an unfunded, and I've put in a postponed motion to move it to funded. I think and I don't want to get into debate until we get into there, but just to answer your question, I think that it is, if we pause, we'll be behind and we'll never catch up, and we'll always be racing because right now the contract is scheduled to end in 2032. There's a 24-month kind of notice, kind of give you a heads up that you can pull out either party. But at the same time, the forces that are moving behind the scenes, whether they be from the federal government or also from the provincial government and some of their plans, we may not know exactly what those are. And I put it to everybody that if we pause until there's an actual decision made by either the federal government or the provincial government, we'll be behind. We'll be too far behind, and we'll be really racing to catch up, and it'll be a very expensive proposition. But I don't want to get in debate, but
Thank you. And then my second question regarding the project and change management advisor. When you have maybe more complex or interdepartmental projects, and whether they're public facing or not, and you have that, like, is this going to provide redundancy in terms of the change management, or because usually senior leadership and leadership is involved in coordinating those efforts? So is that providing redundancy, or is it creating redundancy? What is the aim, or is it just we need more people? They're complex and they require like very specific individuals to help coordinate or quarterback these projects? Like,
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we have a group of people within our strategic services department that are trained change managers, and they're very supportive to some of our corporate business plan projects, where we may have a director or a senior leader being the project lead, but don't necessarily have the capacity as they're trying to maintain their day-to-day business and run these projects to give the proper attention to that change management side of it and the project management side of it. So the people that we have in our portfolio that are doing that work are, have those skills and that training. And they've proved in the past to be very beneficial to these projects in terms of keeping them on time, on track, and managing that change. We've had some pretty successful projects utilizing that model, and we've just been getting, we just have a lot of projects that we're looking to manage. So it's becoming a capacity issue.
so it'd be fair to say that they're practitioners in a change management capacity, but generalist in being able to go across business lines or business functions. Yeah, okay.
I think that's a very good articulation, Mayor. Yeah.
That's all for my questions. I'll go to Councillor Mackay.
Yeah, just to follow up in relation to the training officer, and sorry, Aaron, I know you love talking about this. So currently, right now, we have a temporary filling there, and so we have, and a lot of the concerns is right now, these are temporary training officers. We kind of depend on pulling these people off the floor, putting them into training positions. Also dealing with maybe their availability, making sure that, you know, they're all up and so this is just to kind of make that a permanent position. And so that we're not always relying on pulling different guys off the rigs. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially, it provides currently the chief training officer and the two other training officers, team of 3. This will increase to a team of 4. We'll have less reliance on pulling people from the floor, the firefighters from the floor, who will then get paid a premium temporary training officer to help supplement all the training that's necessary and mandated. So the coordination with a permanent team will be much easier, much more efficient, and with certain skill sets would rely less on even contracted services. And then again, builds a little bit of capacity for options related to mental health coordination and training in that area.
Yeah, that was kind of going to where my next question was going to be. And so that we're not, this individual, this permanent position would not be responsible for the mental health coordination functions then. So can you explain that last little kind of comment to say that? So I read the sentence too, and then you just said it. So including the incorporation of some employee mental health coordination functions. So will this individual be responsible for that, or will this individual free up capacity within the emergency services to investigate establishing a full-time mental health position?
So the mental health coordination duties touches many different areas within administration or the corporation, right? So from human resources and abilities to fire leadership team, which is non-union, to peer supports within the union and other positions. So it's vast. It's not just one particular position that only provides X services. There's a number of services that are needed that many people need to provide on. And what this does is we believe that this extra capacity, that there's a natural fit within that unit to help support and provide some of those functions. What I can't articulate it is exactly today what that plan is and what portions of those duties are going to be in that exact position, but we do know that it will create capacity and options for us, which is why we have had a few positions already provide some of these services, which is providing us some data and information to figure out where we need to go in 2026.
Can I just jump in maybe very quickly? And so, you know, the approach right now, we don't need to, nor should we recreate health and safety complete in St. Albert Fire Services or the police, right? And so what we want to do is provide capacity that takes a number of various supports, all in different spots, and enables folks to consolidate and navigate those things, right? That's fundamentally the coordination function, and that will be resident in good part with this individual. If there's additional duties and responsibilities as we do the review, right? If there's additional supports that come into place, those pieces would be dealt with as they go forward. Right now, our approach, they've been temporary dollars. And so there's no consistency. We've had 3 individuals flow through a position, so there's no continuity. And this will provide continuity as part and parcel of one position, right? There may be more as we solidify and codify it, but that's the intent behind a good portion of the training duties, training officers' functions.
Okay, so I think I got it. So it's not going to be, would it be this position's sole function to coordinate some of that or be that navigator of that system? Or would it be the entire unit to be responsible for that? Or would it be something more like, I mean, I get your point, like a lot of these issues, a lot of these challenges are OH&S, a lot of them are a little bit more complicated that cross not only emergency services, but they cross like the entire organization. So, but there are uniquenesses associated to emergency services that kind of make it stand out a little bit because some of the challenges, and I'm not certainly not belittling any other part of this organization, but emergency services sometimes comes with its own kind of problems and challenges to one's mental health. And so what I'm wondering is then, I think there is what I'm kind of trying to think, is this a navigator or a connective, or do we just don't know yet?
I think a navigator is a good word, but I defer. I mean, there's some ongoing discussions, right, about between the IFF with the union representing the membership and with the membership and fire leadership. But the intent is that this would, to your point, because there absolutely are some unique needs related to emergency first responders, that we're not looking to create this position in any of the other departments, right? Because it's unique and it's going to be able to focus on exactly navigating, coordinating all the various tools and bits out there to ensure that it's easier for folks to get what they need when they need it. They're not providing mental health supports, right?
No, I didn't think they were the provider, but I was just saying is it one person, or could it be the three, or could it be whatever? And maybe that's just not a fair question yet because you guys don't know yet.
Yeah, what I think I can add is you're right. I don't know that we know the intricate details of that, but business continuity of services like that is important to us. So when we talk about like this position of training officers already within the bargaining unit, the position and the duties within. So one of the things we may be looking at again is what are those functions of that position, not the person, and making sure that there's the business continuity is there. So if one particular person again is off, is on vacation, that we still have all those other supports, and that the frontline officers and members aren't left with the gap there. So those are all the things that we need to kind of build, and this position by approving it allows us to look at all that.
Okay, and I'll let this go because I mean, the background or the justification identifies a lot of the training duties and that is required also affiliated to the ongoing training. So I mean, in addition to like all of the certification, all of the training, regular training, there could be this component as to the ongoing mental health.
No, there will be a component for sure, Councillor, 100%.
I didn't mean to sound like I meant this would be a run. Okay, thank you.
You're correct, yeah.
Councillor Hughes?
Okay, I think I'm down to the last three. Okay. Okay, so the photo radar, I mean, Aaron, don't go away. Come back. Photo radar. So I was just trying to put together, like, that was new information that you're saying the province is going to be changing the program again. Is that what I heard? Is that we're anticipating additional changes? Because you said we're doing 0 for this year, but we're still doing photo radar. So can you just?
So yeah, no additional changes that I'm aware of, but when we presented this to council, committee of the whole in fall, what we said was, we recommended the program because we think it's going to be at minimum cost neutral. So the cost for providing the services and the inevitable revenue that ends up coming in on that will pay for the services. What we don't know is what is the range of the net increase in revenue that could happen as a result. And we didn't want to predict that and put that into the budget until we knew, because the amount of time being spent in a construction zone, or the amount of time being spent in a school zone or a playground zone, and the number of tickets that get issued will impact that number. So we don't know what that new trend looks like, because it is a new, substantially different environment than what we are used to in our previous current trends.
Okay, but they made the change in November 2024, right? So wouldn't we still have the data from, I'll look at finance people too. Wouldn't we still have the data for 2025 to give us an estimate? I realize that when you wrote the budget 6 months ago, you wouldn't have had that. But at this point, wouldn't we have at least some kind of guesstimate of numbers that we could give even a conservative estimate of how much it would be?
Certainly there's a possibility, for sure. You know, we can put together, some on that based on the last few months. The challenge being, a lot of the revenue that's been coming in has been from pre-program changes because people will take often 6, 8, 9 months to pay a ticket. So the revenue that you bring in today isn't necessarily from a ticket of the new program. It could be from a ticket of the previous delivery of the program many months ago. But certainly we could look at the number of tickets issued and do that. But you got to keep in mind that when we were doing this in 2025, we also had a very interim contract in place with the contractor while we waited for council, or to present to council, not wait for council. Well, we were going to present to council and get a decision on what that future is. So again, it'll be a little bit of risk to add revenue on that. But it certainly is something that if council does wish, we could again take a BIR or a postponed motion background and throw some numbers at that.
Yeah, I'll do a BIR on it, but I'm just, the recommendation though was, well, we didn't change anything. Like when we discussed it for photo radar, it was, this is the old program, we recommend you keep the program. So wouldn't there still be consistency, or did they do something differently in recent months?
Not recent months, but a significant change in that we can no longer issue tickets at our intersection safety devices on St. Albert Trail. And we can no longer have photo enforcement in any of the residential areas unless it's a school zone or playground zone or a construction zone. So that was the
Right,
80% of the program was based on that.
right. But we did adjust those numbers already for 2025, like,
For a portion of 2025,
portion.
right? Because it came through that we were under the old construct, and then there was the interim construct, and then that. So I take your point, Councillor. If you submit the BIR, we will do the
Okay.
trend analysis of the time from which we provided a similar service, which will give us sort of an indicative idea.
okay. Yeah, because I think we can put something in there, even if it's a lot lower. Like, you know, we're not going to make nothing, is what I'm hoping. Okay, so I'll put that, I'm just gonna make a little circle. The finance position that we have in there, am I wrong? On page 126? You're looking at me like I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Unless I'm talking to you at the wrong time, which I could be. I get confused too.
That's probably the change management advisor, because that falls under finance and strategic services.
Okay, so it's not now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, yeah.
That is now. Okay, see, all right. We're back in business. So we haven't really discussed that position at all. And when I look at it, I still don't quite understand what, like, I'm not gonna argue with you that you don't need it. I'm just trying to understand specifically what problem we're solving with this one. Because when I read it, it just seemed a little vague.
So, sorry, and you're talking about the change management advisor one.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll ask Ms. Slokar actually to come on and speak to that.
Hello, thank you, Councillor Hughes, for your question. So this position is adding capacity across the organization. So as you know, we have several initiatives and they're outlined, a lot of them are outlined in the corporate business plan that we do to achieve council priorities. So it could be from corporate business plan, it could be from council motions, or it could be executive level projects that this position would manage. So this is adding capacity because we're finding that we're getting asked more and more to provide that type of a service. And what this does is basically provides a trained expertise in project and change management. And these projects usually involve representatives from many different departments across the organization. So it requires a great deal of coordination across the organization and getting everybody to really focus on achieving the desired outcome of projects and getting the results that we're expecting. So we're combining really project and change management to maximize the value and use of this position so that this position can do project management as well as provide change management support. So different type of projects that this position would do could fall under, as I mentioned, corporate business plan projects, both supporting achievement of council priorities and executive leadership team under organizational excellence, as well as internal audit steering committee. As you know, those reviews require coordination and internal management to ensure that they're done in a best possible way and following council program and service review policy or internal audit approach. And then once those reviews are done, this position would also help project manage and do different elements of implementation of recommendations that come from those reviews. So it really supports accountability to make sure that desired project objectives are achieved, as well as from doing those reviews that we actually follow through and implement recommendations, and we help the organization internally coordinate those efforts. So and then again, also council motions. So planning and development and capital project management motion that was made to do process improvement. So this position would help support that work as well. We're just finding that, we can't manage some of these significant projects out of a desk anymore. So this position is adding capacity to strategic services team, but really position will be supporting everybody across the organization, which could then free up time of directors and others to really focus on being subject matter experts, with this position bringing everybody together to plan and deliver on the project objectives.
Maybe I could jump in, and it might just be useful to understand kind of the project management approach, right? And so outside of a capital project where we have dedicated trained project managers who often juggle more than one, for corporate projects, key projects that, might have a significant impact on the organization or an outcome, it's the same folks who are doing their day jobs, right? And so generally you've got an executive leadership sponsor. In some cases, they're actually the project lead. More often than not, it's a leader somewhere in the organization doing that. And they may have two or three, or they may have, one. We very rarely have a dedicated, in fact, I think in only one case I'm thinking right now, do we have a dedicated project management, and that's for the enterprise maintenance management, asset management, project. And so, someone doing that, the whole purpose of the change manager project manager folks are to provide multifunctional, because they all deal with more than one project, but trained expertise in change management and project management to assist the leadership in being able to get these things moving and across the finish line. So they're enablers. They're not the project leads. They enable the leadership of the city to do those project lead pieces. I'm not trained in project management or change management, but I'm certainly in charge of a lot of that kind of stuff, and it helps to have that advice and expertise. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's kind of the approach.
Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Cortesh is asking me to ask you for an example. So, and I'm going to kind of provide one for you. How about that, Daria? Right now, you
Sure,
only,
I can also provide examples, no problem.
yeah, and you can too. But like the one I'm thinking is just like the audit committee, when we have some, when it comes forward, it's often a coordination of multiple departments have to get together to make it happen. So it's not just like one meeting, it'll be multiple departments that are going to be tied into this sometimes. And they've got to coordinate with the auditors to make it a reality. So that's kind of, it's not just like two people. Sometimes there's 12 people. Sometimes there's different departments that are coming in. And that's at least what's striking me when I think of it is as we do these and we get the cost of doing the audits is that, you're going to have to, there is a disruption to the staff, but at the end, there's a much stronger organization, but they still have to tie it together so it's done effectively. But if you have any other examples, Daria, you're welcome to.
Yeah, it would be pretty much any of the planning and development and capital project management office process improvement. That was council motion. It would be procurement audit, implementation of recommendations from that procurement audit. Of course, we work with procurement team, but advisor assigned to that would do the project managing, so scheduling of activities and when they happen and how they happen, as well as help with the project change management pieces. The other one would be cybersecurity audits that we did through the internal audit steering committee, We did the resource planning model, so it will just help with some of those projects that come our way. And this position also works internally with departments to do smaller process improvement activities as well. So it's not only managing projects, but it's also providing those extra expertise where they can work with departments to look at process improvement. So they use project management to do the work, but they actually also help with process improvement and even smaller service reviews for which we wouldn't hire consultants. So with using our existing resources, we've actually been able to save money from hiring consultants to do this work. So now this position will help us ensure that we're not doing it side of a desk and that we have more capacity to assist organization and project sponsor across the organization.
So
And another great example too that council would maybe be more familiar with would be the investment in Lakeview. This was project and change management that would be a project that would be this team facilitated and project managed. So that's kind of an example of another project.
So just, I could expand on that, because you're looking and like, just picking up what you're putting down yet. So, like, when we had to discuss the Lakeview, there was a lot of just trying to handle risk management. And so with that, Mr. Fletcher had like almost every department come in to look at the effects and possible solutions to try to figure out how they would coordinate this and make sure that whatever decision recommending was thoroughly vetted. I guess that would be what you're talking about. So Derry, just who's doing this right now then? Is it just all you, or like, because there's somebody who has to be doing this role in some capacity right now?
Yeah, so some of these were on me, but it's becoming too much. And I do have 2 more advisors that are trained to be more of a project and change management advisor. But with long-range strategies that we talked about having to be developed and other work that falls under advisor positions, we're just finding that it's becoming side of a desk and we need dedicated resource, especially for that change management piece, because change management really helps ensure that organization is adapting to changes that may be coming with projects that we're doing. So we do have myself and another advisor, and third one, we kind of pulled in as well. But with the long range strategies, we want to make sure that we can properly focus on those so that we can make better progress and achieve those in the best possible way. So what would happen is this position would take on some of those more significant projects, and then advisors can focus on the planning responsibility that the team has and risk management and other duties.
Okay, I will stop asking questions. If you have more, you can feel free. The last one I had was the natural gas. You mentioned in the second quarterly report how we have there was a surplus because they would take off the carbon tax for natural gas. I'm just double checking that we amended the budget for 2026 to reflect that.
Yeah, that has been reflected in the new 26 budget.
Perfect. That's it for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I just want to follow up real quick on that with the change management specialist. You did answer, Daria, you did answer my question in terms of replacing or reducing the reliance on consultants to help with this.
Mm-hmm.
Accounting firms or consultancy firms will have individuals in that practicing in that space. Are you able to quantify what we are going to be able to reduce that external cost by bringing this in-house? Or is that a BIR?
Probably, I would be guessing. So if you would like that level of information, I think BIR would be better.
Okay.
I can provide even some examples of existing projects where we saved, but to ensure that I'm not, guessing too much, BIR would give me more time to think through.
For sure. And if it's a full-time thing, I would think it would be certainly compensate the reduction in external fees, because those could be quite large project by project, or, the lifespan over the year. The other
Absolutely.
side is with the mental health, you said navigation piece under the emergency response coordinator. So this is obviously driven, it's clearly driven by a need for somebody to have a skill set or training to be able to navigate instances where that's required. Are we monitoring that inside of emergency services to understand the trend of where that's going, and that we're properly prepared to handle what that workload could look like, and that they have the necessary training? Because navigating them to just say, use your benefits, or, you need this as a support service is one thing. But if we're not managing or monitoring it, like what is success look like, I guess, in that role, if this is a key component to it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. Again, I certainly turn to Mr. Giesbrecht on this, but again, I think part of it is mapping out the playing field, right? And so it's understanding what is out there, what applies, and ensuring folks that, can again marry up with the supports they need when they need them, and that we know what all the supports are. That's maybe a simplistic statement, right? And so, the individual, it's not just a matter of being good at talking to folks or understand. So you need to know what's out there. You need to know what services they provide, and then you need to know the needs of your membership, right, as it relates to that more holistically. So I would say that, broadly that's going on. Our current solution, like I said, has been pretty much a temporary position. 3 folks have gone through there, 3 great folks, but it's been a pull from the floor, right? And so this will codify and sort of institutionalize and permanentize, I don't know if that's a word, make permanent, right, that capacity as a start state. And then, I would submit to you that as we get that set and we start looking, it may be enough, maybe there's more. I don't know, right? At the end of the day, we need to get that thing created and go forward. Mr. Giesbrecht, did you want to jump in on any of that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I can add is I agree, like, we're gonna have to, as we evolve this program and continuously improve it, it's what are those key performance measures and metrics that we want to put in terms of what that success looks like. And I think ultimately it's about making sure, whether that's, some internal surveys that we have to do to make sure that everyone's aware of what those mental health supports are. And then ultimately reducing the amount of claims related to mental health support. I think it's ultimately the very high level objective of where we ultimately would want to go. But in the meantime, it's going to be, evolving and building that program and continuously improving it.
Thank you very much. That's it for my questions. I'll go to Councillor Cortesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I don't know if this is where this fits, but I guess it's overall governance, employee stuff. Recently, I think there was a reduction in employer contributions for LAPP. I don't know too much about that. I don't know how many, is that in this budget? Does that affect our compensation for employees if we're not contributing as much for LAPP this year?
Thanks. I'll actually ask Mr. Stovall to start, then he can direct to finance if he has needs any support.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Councillor Cortesh. So we are seeing a one-time reduction in LAPP premiums. It hasn't been confirmed long-term. So the other part I'll just mention is we just received notice of an increase in benefits premiums. So our provider for benefits. We expect those two to almost cancel each other out. So my understanding in chatting with finance, I don't believe we're adjusting the budget yet. If this becomes a longer term trend, we would then look to adjust in future years.
And then I can just add to what Mr. Stovall just had. We worked really closely with HR and analyzed the trending. So when we have a full-time employee, we incorporate all the trending of benefits into fact. So a full-time employee would encompass 23.5% on their benefits, and a full part-time would be 9%. And so we make sure a lot of times when we get those announcements, the actual impact is a lot later into the next year. So we make sure to trend that and make sure we're recovering based on the ebbs and flows of all the benefits overall and then count them into those benefit percentages. So that's something we do annually.
Okay, thank you.
Together.
Councillor McKay.
Yeah. I was not going to raise this, but we know we've been talking about mental health. And I'm wondering, under the communications advisor's position, and the comment in the back or in the justification is the FTE is needed to maintain current service levels and retain existing communication advisors. So is this a workload challenge problem? And then it says it's not. So, right now there's 4 FTE communications advisors. Will this make 5 then? So I'm just kind of wondering what that kind of comment says, because we've been talking about mental health for the last little bit here.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilor McKay. I'll ask Mr. Pearson to respond to that.
Thank you for the question. Hopefully my sound is coming through. I appreciate the question. Yeah, it is a workload issue as the city has grown the number of projects we do, as well as the complexity of the marketing communications world. We've been seeing just a huge increase in the ask on our staff to the point where it is actually having a negative impact on our psychological health and well-being. We're having to take like steps to really kind of limit things like overtime and stress, and we're at that point now where if we're unable to keep the term FTE we have, that we're going to have to be looking at service changes and doing some things very differently, or not doing other things at all. So you hit the nail on the head there. It is 100% workload driven.
Okay, so this will be just to replace a current term position then, or?
We have apologies.
Yeah, no, I just want to seek clarification in relation to that, because I read that too. I mean, so it's a term position you have currently. So is it a temporary position just, or a contract position?
Yeah, it's a temporary position funded out of surplus now, and just to keep our service level where it is, we need to keep that position on, and it's not really tenable to continue forward in a term position funding out of surplus. As I said, we need to make it a permanent part of our workload, our workforce.
The citywide marketing and communications plan, is that something available like to council, or is that something that came out in some other format, or did we actually see it? It sounds bad, a citywide communicating marketing, and I didn't see it, so.
So yeah, it is not a public facing plan. It is a plan that's internal to our department, communications and public affairs. It's essentially a really in-depth user guide for our staff to optimize messaging and to tell the city's story in a much more effective, cohesive way. So
Yeah, it's not about the what, it's about the how.
Yeah, no, fair. That I mean, it's more administrative directive kind of a document, and I understand that, and I don't. But I mean, I guess it does raise some, you know, when we have to have a justification that identifies it almost negative. You know what I mean? If you don't mind me saying that, and I don't mean it pejoratively. I just say it's just sort of, it will not expand capacity to meet increasing departmental demands or support implementation of this. You know, it just raises flags when in the justification is all. That's what I'm just saying.
No, your point's very well taken, Counselor. I think, you know, at the end of the day, I can even speak, you know, for my 3 years here, we have put a lot of additional demands on our communications department, right? In terms of their responsiveness, how they communicate, and honestly, the complexity of the issues. So you're right. It's not ultimately, increasing our service level per se. It's allowing us to kind of meet the need, go forward. And Mr. Pierce has been quite right from folks are getting tired, right? And so this is an effort to try and help level the bubbles a bit.
Fair enough. Yeah, because usually when we see an addition to a staff position, we see an increase in service levels, right? This is maintain service levels and maintain the health and well-being of our employees. So I just
And I think, you know, to your point, that there's the service levels, right, which sort of, you know, dictate timelines for responses, how we do all those things. You know, there's service level specific, but it's the underneath of those. And so the service levels haven't changed, but the amount of work you have to do to meet that service level is now significantly different than it was a number of years ago. To your point, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hughes.
I really am really close to done. I had 2 quick questions. I'm hoping they're quick. Okay, so fire services, I know we discussed like almost 2 years ago, but the long-term plan. And I'm just wondering, are we intending to, I know that there was a question about it during the election, but I just wanted to clarify. So we're not doing a long-term plan any longer for fire services, or what would it take to have one put in place?
Yeah, I'll refer that to Aaron, and Daria may also be able to speak to how that will blend into the community well-being plan as well, but go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I'll let Daria speak to kind of the the bigger corporate side of that, but what I can share is, emergency services is now, about to finalize mid-range plans, which has a shorter term outlook, but the replacement of a longer term outlook is that community wellbeing plan, which I believe is planned to start in 2026.
So before you talk, Daria, so mid-range means how many years? Is it like 3 years, 5 years? What's mid-range to you?
Mid-range plans is, looking at Daria, 4 years. It's a new process for us, so we're about to finalize it.
So, the long range, I'm just thinking like the 10-year plan, like what specifically what I'm looking at is like the plans to replace equipment. I feel like the staffing plans don't change that much of how many we need, but per fire hall, for example, but that longer term plan of like when and how much for all the equipment, is that what you're handling in that wellness plan, or is that not being addressed past the 4-year mark?
No, the wellness plan, I think, is more about what kind of services we need to deliver to the community at a very kind of high level. The specific replacement plans for capital, for equipment, that stuff, that is not handled that's handled through coordination with fleet, through other internal administrative reports and
Yeah, maybe I could just jump in. And so, you know, the plan itself should identify the need, right? To your point on equipment, that's actually managed, that's life cycle managed out of our fleet services, right? And so whether it's a fire truck or a gas powered mower, right, they track the life cycle of it, and we'll start to do the recapitalization over the life cycle. And that's where, you know, as was discussed the other day, and I know council made the decision last year to look at that 3-year outlook for buses, working the same thing towards, you know, key fleet components of it. And so the question is, are you replacing, I'd be deliberately sort of cheeky a little bit, right? But, you know, do you replace your ladder truck in 10 years time or 5 years time with a hover truck, right? In terms of the changing nature and requirements of technology and the needs, right? As St. Albert grows and you get a high-rise apartment building someday, right? There's going to be additional requirements and demands for fire services to be able to deal with that, both from training and equipment. And so they will identify what the needs are. The actual management and purchase of the equipment is fleet services.
So I'm still hearing, if I'm a personal, just as personal bias, I would still prefer to have an actual, like, here's the plan, like, this is the meaty thing, like, this is what we have, this is our inventory, this is what we actually think we're gonna be replacing and when. And then any other issues that they may have, like even like right down to, I know I have a motion about the mechanic, for example. So there's other things like that where it might be like we need additional support staff or stuff like that. And so is that being addressed in that mid-range plan, or like, I just feel like that's kind of short.
No, that would be in what you're talking about specifically as it relates to equipment. We do have that. It's our life cycle management. It's the enterprise maintenance management, asset management component will help with that, but it's public operations in that instance that deals with that.
Okay.
And just to add, that's done annually. Each year, every life cycle is reviewed, every piece of inventory within that for the criteria, like looking at all aspects of condition, determining when it's going to replace and assess it to make those decisions. So that's being handled as the annual process within each department.
If I wanted to have a long-range plan done for fire or any emergency services, we can include ambulance in there, but I know ambulance is sort of, because we don't know if HS does something different to us. Would that require a separate motion, or could we do that in-house, or do you need money to do that?
Yeah, respectfully, that is not congruent with our current planning construct. It would be an outlier, and we'd have to cost it and would require a motion and resourcing.
Yeah, I would expect a motion. I'm just wondering, we'd have to contract it out, is what I'm assuming?
I would expect so, because we wouldn't stop work on our multifunctional plan, which is in line with community vision and the MDP, nor the mid-range plans.
Okay. I'd like to find some kind of solution to this that would be working with our current plan system. So I'm just letting you know. The other question I had is on page 22, the procurement audit. I'm going to go page 22. So we can go both take time together to do it. They have, maybe it's in the page 21, but it has that, like, we're finishing phases 1 and 2 of the procurement audit of next year. And then we're not beginning phase 3 until 2027. And I'm just trying to figure out why. Let me just see if I can.
Thanks for the question. We're in the midst of the middle of stage 2 of the
Yeah.
project. So we're just still, we've implemented all the software pieces and we are just introducing contract management. And so we're just trying to, we've been delayed a little bit on that second phase. So that's why the timing got pushed out.
So it's not really going to be done by March. We're really thinking it'll be later into the year. And then since we finish, then we'll just start with phase 3 and there won't be a delay. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so just a bit of a typo there. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I don't believe there's any additional questions. Wonderful. Could we call for a 5-minute break? If that's okay.
We would be more than happy if you called for a 5-minute break.
Wonderful. We'll call for 6 minutes then. Okay, I will wait for our esteemed colleague, Miss Counselor Mackay, to join us. Perfect. We will resume the meeting. And I believe there are, sorry, some additional questions. And I will move that over to Counselor Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you guys thought I was done, but then I just realized there was a whole area I hadn't touched. IT. So the new IT person, I was trying to figure out, what did I write here? I'm just not quite sure what problem we're solving again with the IT position.
Thank you for the question, and I'll ask Ms. Graham to respond.
I actually saw her head to the restroom. It's entirely possible she's still there. on her
She
way back.
could be, we can,
Sorry, I'm here. I apologize. We had a little server room discussion we had to have that happens from time to time. So my apologies. And thank you, Mr. Paul, for getting me back in.
so, so Joanne, what I'm looking at is the business analyst position.
Yes.
When I looked at it, it said, okay, we had somebody who got moved to the enterprise project. And so now we need someone to fill this position. So was the person before doing the business analyst's position and then they got moved over? Is that what happened?
So thank you for that question. No, that's not exactly, and I apologize if the wording in the business case was not clear in that. Right now, we just have, the only business analyst position we have is funded from a project that was provided primarily for context as our current state. So that person is still in that position, and they, this permanent position is to provide ongoing business analysis capability for all of the other projects and for the IT governance process.
So what did we do before? Because if this position only consists, let me just understand the history here, Joanne. I know you, 'cause I know you're like, I was sad that she didn't call me. So here we are, we get to talk for a bit. So we had this need before, but you're telling me we hired something somebody just for the project.
Correct.
So that person didn't exist here before. So how did we solve this problem before?
So we solved it a number of ways, very much off the corner of the desk of some individuals that had business analysis experience. In some cases with the MM project, as all projects do, have some ebbs and flows. And so when we could, borrow some time from that business analyst for some of our other functions, we were able to do that. But primarily we did it off the corner of our desks.
So again, I'm not an IT person. We'll just play one on TV for now. So what were we doing off the corner of our desks? Like, what will this person now be compliant to do on the middle of their desk?
Oh, thank you. So business analysts, their primary function is to ensure that we have a complete understanding of what is needed from technology. So really, they are a pretty key resource to making sure that we're delivering the right technology solutions and getting the right outcomes. The way they do that is primarily through understanding all of the business requirements. So what do we need the technology to do? But they also have a role in process analysis to make sure that any technology that is acquired and then implemented gives us the outcomes. It also ensures, and I know we had quite a discussion about change management, but they also ensure that the technology functions so that we can get the adoption of it that we need so that it actually delivers value. So it's requirements and it's process and it's connecting the technology with the business needs.
Okay, and I understand that. So basically we're trying to figure out the right technology to solve the right problem. And so before that, we just did it on the corner of our desk. Like, I'm trying to I just don't see how that would be a recipe for success. So I realize you're saying that's why we're bringing this forward right now, but I'm also just like, how did we get to that? Like, it's challenging to think that nobody was really looking at what we need to have for the right technology for this size of an organization.
Yes, I mean, you are correct in that. And it does make it more challenging to implement technology and to ensure the success of those implementations.
I guess would this also help with just enforcing the cybersecurity and making sure that everything that we're purchasing is the best, or is that not relevant to this?
So the specific cybersecurity requirements for any technology, that information is provided by our cybersecurity specialists, our analysts.
Okay. So this is literally just,
But this person would ensure, though, that as we have our list of requirements that go forward, they would ensure that the cybersecurity analysts are engaged in providing their input.
okay. I guess, no, let's just, I feel like, you know how, Ken, you have unintended consequences? I feel like Neil is like, give me an example. He hasn't even said it, but I can feel it. So can you give me an example of what we would need to purchase that we couldn't figure out? Like, because in some ways, it's like if you need an iPad, you need an iPad. Like, I guess it's not that complicated in some cases. So what makes this an urgent situation to have it addressed? Because we have survived to this point without it.
Yes.
Good, bad, or ugly.
Yes. So in very similar to the situation with the change management and project management, we have increased the number of projects that we are working on. And we've also increased the scope and the complexity of those projects. And so where we're seeing this is primarily from a capacity issue. And if we did continue with that the increased number of projects, scope and complexity of those projects, without this position, we really are at risk of those implementations taking longer and potentially missing the mark when they are finally rolled out.
Okay. Okay, I understand what you're saying. In some ways, it's hard to believe we don't have anybody and because we've gotten this far. Like, I guess, you know, like if you run a marathon and then you're like, how did you run it with really crappy shoes? And you're on mile 22 and you're like, I don't know, I just did it. So I feel like that's kind of what you're telling me is that we ran a marathon this far, but we shouldn't run it any further. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That is a fair analogy.
I think if I maybe could, Counselor Hughes, not being an IT expert by any stretch of the imagination, right? You know, the city, to your point, the city has done a good job, I think, up to previous years, but the scope and scale of the change as we modernize and adapt our systems and our processes, right, to reflect growing St. Albert and frankly, to reflect, that it's 2025. Some of our stuff is aging out, right? We have new requirements. It's a pace and a critical mass issue, I guess, is how I would say it as a layperson when it comes forward. And so what we've got in place works. What we need to do is improve, modernize, and optimize, and that's not an insignificant effort moving forward.
Okay. Okay. I understand. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. We'll go to Councillor Clark.
I'd like some information on the type 6 brush truck that is currently unfunded.
Yeah, I think that would be perhaps best suited. Is that fire? That's a fire brush truck. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah.
Okay. I think given the current climate change and significant fire that we've had, province-wide, region, federally, it's probably prudent to fund this. At the end of the day, the type 7 brush truck is fairly small. How is that responding to fire activity? Is that actually having to be supported by a larger fire truck, given its small capacity, or is it being supported by the other type 6 brush truck?
Yeah, I will defer that to Mr. Giesbrecht.
I'm going to do my best to try to answer this one, but I may have to get some expertise and do a BIR on this. But my understanding of what we have now is that business case spoke to replacing the type 6 replacing the type 7 with the type 6. The type 6 one had some modifications done to it, I believe, to provide some level of response in those situations. But I think that business case spoke to the risk of or the desire to have one on either side of the city so that we wouldn't have to rely as much on the type 6 one currently. Because that one has more specifically designed for these types of fire deployment and responses.
And would we ultimately be keeping the type 7 so that we'd have one at maybe 3 of the stations? Or would there be enough of a cost recovery in selling it that it would be beneficial?
I'm not sure there will be much in terms of the sale and cost recovery of those. I don't know what the market is on that. We'd have to look into that. But I do believe the desire was to replace it, not to add. But that's something I can certainly get back to council on.
Yeah, I mean, it.
Sorry,
seems-
Councilor, I believe that the business case, this is an addition, so this is a purchase of an additional truck.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have on that right now.
Thank you, Councillor Bermansky.
Thank you. Another question for communications, Paul in communications here. Is he still here? Thank you, Paul. At our employee introduction, it was mentioned by you that you have 19 people in your department. Can you just clarify? Because you were just mentioning like 4 full-time and a 5th one and whatever. So where does the 19 come in? If you could clarify that, please.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Councillor Bermansky. So the 19 is across the entire department. The 4 I was referring to, and that's referred to in this business case, are just the communications advisors. In addition to communications advisors, we have marketing coordinators, we have graphic designers, we have also public affairs, Brian, and supervisors for those 3 units in addition to a manager. So our total department complement is 19, but in the comms advisor world, we've got the 4.
Okay, that's all for communications. And I have the same question essentially for Joanne in IT.
Thank you, Councillor Bermansky. If you could please clarify, you're wondering where all of my staff are located?
Yes, because in your, we get your introductory, I guess, meeting the staff introductions at the first round of council here. And you had mentioned 32 FTEs and 4 contract. And then you're mentioning that you're doing off corner of desks. So I'm just not, if you could clarify sort of where the problem is in your department.
Certainly. So as I mentioned in the orientation, we have the 3 branches. So one of the branches, technical services, they take care of all the networks, the servers, the help desk, computers, cybersecurity, et cetera. So those individuals have a very hands-on support role for the city. The other department, which is our application and data services, have application analysts that manage the existing applications and may be involved, or actually are involved in implementations of new technology, but from a perspective of the business analyst would be involved in. So that takes us to the project management and business relationship management department. And that department is currently staffed with 4 project managers and the 1 business analyst that we currently have on contract for the enterprise maintenance management asset management project is within that branch. So it's that branch in particular that would be housing the business analyst. And it is sometimes those project managers that do some of the business analysis off the corner of their desks. And from time to time when needed, some of the application analysts will also do it off the corner of their desks.
Okay, and what are the 4 consulting roles?
So the 4 consulting roles, one of them is the business analyst. So these are term positions. The business analyst for the enterprise maintenance management asset management project. We have a GIS analyst that is also dedicated to that project. We have the project manager for the Next Generation 911 project is also a term position. And we currently now have one term position that is being funded to address some of the requirements or some of the initiatives rather with the work plan arising from the 2024 cybersecurity audit. And that individual is in technical services.
Thank you. And how long are the terms for those?
So the term for the technical services individual is 12 months. The term for the project manager for the Next Generation 911, that one is aligned with the project itself. So that term is going until the end of 2027. The business analyst for the enterprise maintenance management asset management project, that term is going to the conclusion of that project, which right now we have that extended to 2031. The GIS analyst that is also for the enterprise maintenance management asset management project, that term right now is to the end of 2027.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hughes, with additional questions.
Yeah, I got one more. Yesterday, Suzanne, I asked what the capital reserve would be at. So do you have an update on that?
Yeah, the ending estimated capital reserve balance is 4.2 million. And then I just wanted to provide a caution to in the balance. So this 4.2 million is uncommitted at the end of 2026. But as part of our capital funding plan, it is required to be used as a funding source. And if you go to page 56, you'll see for 27, 28 projects we have listed. And that there's also important to note that we don't currently have funds committed for emergent capital initiatives. That's something that we're going to probably put a floor in that in next reserve recommendation. So essentially, in order to fund that recommended growth initiatives that you see on page 56, that requires those funds. So essentially, if council was approving 27 and 28 projects per that recommended list, that reserve balance would be committed. So we just wanted, because we're only doing 1 year at a time, we just wanted to caution that.
Okay.
And there is a double asterisk you can see on page 56 in those years out that we've already had to go back to some of the teams on those projects to reduce the scope based on the reduction in funding availability that we were communicating before.
Okay, I hear you. I'm not gonna actually build like a statue to myself. That'll be going in 2028. So we'll be fine on that. But I don't know. We'll have a surplus. So, I mean, we can discuss what we do with the surplus as well to also address the capital issues. As just a side note, I know that we always do the third quarter in the last week of November, but it would really be helpful if we were to do it earlier for that whenever we have budget, just if it's possible, because it gives us an opportunity to get a better, clearer picture of the direction we're going, just as a side. So, okay, that's what I was looking at was the 4.2 million. And so, because when I look at this community response unit for Fire 034, I just, for the life of me, can't figure out why it didn't hit the funded list. I realize that it's because we're trying to like triage, but like it's going to actually save us operating costs and it makes sense. So I guess it's just, I'm trying to figure out why it's not already on the funded list.
Yep, Councillor, I guess the simple answer is we went through the criteria and the triage, that's where it came out. And so to your point, you know, demand outstrips supply by a large margin. And so looking across the entirety of the corporation, we ordered and recommended what we think will create the biggest bang for the buck in the short term. It's absolutely an important ask. There's no doubt about it. But it's all relative.
And then just to add to Mr. Fletcher's response, the reality of our funding has really impacted us from the reduction in grants. We used to have, once we fund the RMR and what we have left over, we used to have an average of 8 million. We now have 5 million. So that's why you're seeing the pay-as-you-go business case, but the reality of our current reserves, the pay-as-you-go, so that only leaves those levers. So we really, there's some real impacts of our funding availability as a city. So that's determining some difficult prioritization decisions.
Okay, one more thing. So when you came up with that number of 4.2, is that assuming that the pay-as-you-go business case is approved? So it's not. So assuming it is approved, we'll have the extra 600,000 as well.
That is correct.
Okay, and technically we would have that money for next year as well.
That is correct. And that's where I was cautioning that we need those funds, even with the pay-as-you-go, when we did the 27 to 29 funding requirements in the plan that you're seeing on page 56, we still had a $1 million deficit on that we'd have to pull out of those future years. So we would probably interpret the pay-as-you-go increase to be that cushion for unexpected emergencies that are always popping up and to address that deficiency.
But again, we're dealing with now. February, there could be a surplus. I expect some sort of surplus, and we'll be discussing how perhaps we need to do a top up and split it.
Yeah,
So the problem could go away in a few months, depending on what council chooses to do.
Yeah, with a potential surplus, we would be recommending a top up to the capital reserve to address
Yeah.
this also.
Okay, thank you.
I don't believe there's any other questions, and Arts and Heritage is here. Okay, sounds good. Just take a
Unless, I know Councillor Hughes did you want to
Yeah.
address that other issue?
Yeah, if it's possible, just to go in camera for a couple minutes, just to ask a couple quick questions. And that way, and you have a little bit time to gather your things together. Would that be okay?
Yep, that sounds good.
And I believe that you have, I'm looking at Marta, you'd have the wording?
We're just gonna put the motion up on the screen.
I'm prepared to put that motion forward, Mayor.
Please do.
That the committee go in camera to discuss matters pursuant to section 29 1A and 29 1D of the Access to Information Act.
Thank you. We'll go to vote.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That vote passed unanimously. We'll go to in camera.
Yeah, thank you. And so it'll just take a couple minutes to set up the breakout room. We'll relocate into the council lounge. Thank you.
So Tristan, we'll be gone for like maybe 10 minutes. We're leaving the room, so you can hang out for as long.
All right. I think we're loaded and ready to go. Anne, nice to see you.
Excuse me, Mayor. We just need to do a motion to come back out of in camera to come back into public. So can I get somebody to make the motion to move back into public?
We get a counselor to make them
That committee reconvened in public. Or in the LIB.
go to vote. That motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, I believe we are ready. We're just a small change to the agenda. We're going to start with the Arts and Heritage Foundation this afternoon.
Okay, so it'll be a second. Okay.
Yes. Do you want to, I think the microphone's on.
Hello, everyone, and congratulations to the returning guys and the new people. Mr. Mayor, welcome, sir. Yes. My name is Ahmad Sani, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Art and Heritage Foundation of St. Albert Board of Trustees. And with me today is Anne Ramsden, our Executive Director. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present our 2026 operating budget to you for your consideration. So what we are presenting today is our operation budget to maintain the services we provide for the community, including the maintenance of 9 historic buildings.
Yep.
And go to the next slide.
It's okay, Evelyn.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, that's our arts and our mission and vision. And the Art and Heritage Foundation, also known as AHF, is an independent charitable organization that is governed by a board of trustees that employs experienced and qualified staff who manage and operate the city-owned Art Gallery of St. Albert, Musée Heritage Museum, and the St. Albert Heritage Sites. And this is done through a partnership agreement with the city of St. Albert. There is more information about us on our website at www.artsandheritage.ca, where you can find our audited financial statements, annual report, strategic framework, and you can also find other information on our exhibitions, programs, collections, and archives. So what we do, or what we plan to do, in 2026, we will present 18 exhibitions for the community to enjoy. The Art Gallery of St. Albert will present 30 of them, including 2 popular community exhibitions, the High Energy and the Gilded. High Energy, now in its 31st year, shows work from high school students in St. Albert, and Gilded is a biannual exhibition showcasing the talent of the St. Albert girls. In 2018, the gallery was renovated to make the historical building barrier-free, and a new main exhibition space was added. This renovation has made the gallery one of the best in the region and known for showcasing award-winning artists. We had 153 artist submissions for the 2026 gallery and are able to accommodate 13 of these. The Musée Heritage Museum History Gallery tells the story of St. Albert year-round. And in 2026, there will be 4 feature exhibitions in the main gallery space, as well as 4 additional community-focused exhibits. In 2026, at our site, We will run over 1,700 schools or community art and history classes at the art gallery, museum, and heritage site. One of the programs council members may be familiar with is the grade 6 government program. The students hold a mock council meeting in council chambers, and a councillor or the mayor usually comes and talks to the student about their work. We want to thank you in advance for participating in this program and engaging with our elementary school students. Also, we have a contract with the province to run the interpretation and programming at the Father Lacombe Chapel Provincial Historic Site, which is open from May to September. We care for and continue to grow the city's artifacts and archival collections. The collections are used in exhibitions and for research. Some examples of how our collections were used in 2025 include images from the archives that were used in a documentary called What the Mother Teaches, that was aired on National Truth and Reconciliation Day. Also, images are being used in course material at the University of Alberta and in news articles. Our archives are very popular and extensively used by genealogists and researchers. As the museum collections and programs continue, we are working on a new museum concept at the heritage sites. Our current projects. In the city's 10-year municipal growth capital plan, there's a project charter to move the museum from St. Albert Place to the heritage sites. We are currently finalizing the museum feasibility study for a new year-round facility at the heritage sites. We received funding from Canadian Heritage for the study and a design charrette with 45 participants over 2 days, which was held in June. So a new museum would help us meet the needs of a growing community. The current museum located in St. Albert Place opened in 1984, when the population was 35,529. The population has more than doubled to over 73,000. And the MDP envisions a population of 100,000. It will help free civic space within St. Albert Place. It will increase the operational efficiency by combining the museum, heritage sites, and foundation office staff in one venue and meet the needs of other community groups. We look forward to working with council and administration to ensure that you have all the information you need to make a decision on where the new museum lies within the 10-year capital plan. So our budget request for 2026 from the city of St. Albert is $2,027,300. This represents 70% of the AHF's overall 2026 budget. It's an increase of 4.5%, $87,500 to be precise, over the 2025 budget. This percentage is similar to our 2025 request. We are facing increased maintenance and utility costs associated with maintaining 9 heritage buildings and an increase in our program supplies, as many originate from the US. We have made some savings by moving to a smaller foundation office within the same building, which was done early this year. And these savings offset our rent increase and office expenses. The remaining 30% of our revenue, $830,032, comes from earned revenues from schools and community programs, gift shops, and contribute revenues contributed revenues that come from grants and donations. And there we have our budget. We have presented the budget that shows our total revenues and expenses. In the second column, we have broken out the city portion that shows areas that the city operational funding supports. In 2026, we are budgeting for an increase in our earned and contributed revenues. This will mostly come from program revenues and retail areas. On the expense side, we are budgeting for increase in our staffing costs, general expenses, and repairs and maintenance. Overall, like I said earlier, the increase in our request to the city is 87,500 over last year, or 4.5%. Thank you for your consideration. We look forward to continuing to work with our partners and the city of St. Albert to provide inclusive and exceptional arts and heritage experience in the community. Thank you. Into questions now.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Just before we get into questions, can you just go back to the slide that showed the budget ask and the remaining 30%? Okay, thank you. We'll start with questions with Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, I don't see Anne. Are you hiding? Where is
She's
she?
here.
Hello, Anne. Okay. This is a pretty tight budget you brought back. Like you're not spending a lot of extra cash here. One question I had was, I know you're taking some money out of the reserves for the computers. I don't see any plans here to put money into for capital reserves in your current plan. So how are you putting money into the reserves?
We haven't planned to put money into the reserves. If we have an operating surplus, then the money gets allocated to reserves.
So are you normally seeing a small surplus? It's not wrong if you do. I'm trying to figure out how you can get the money back in the reserves. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Last year we didn't, but prior to that we had.
And I guess how often are you replacing the computers? Every 3 years, 4 years?
We replace our computers every 4 years.
4, okay. Okay, I'm just not sure if you should actually have a line item to just put $2,000 in every year to handle the cover of it in case, unless you're pretty confident that we might be able to find another surplus. I mean, your surpluses are not huge, right? So just a thought on that. That was the first thing. The second thing, so it says you moved into a smaller space. That was a few years ago, right? Or did you move into a smaller space still? Are you down to a closet?
We moved at the about this time last year. We didn't actually see any savings till this year because we actually had to move all the furniture and we had to do some renovations to the new space. So this 2026 is really the first full year where we're going to see the reduction.
Well, thank you for putting it in there. Like, your ask is not unreasonable, so I'm not going to be grilling you on that. The only question I had, my last question, was the project charter that you brought forward. So the number you have for 7 million, is that for phase 1 or phase 1 through 3, or what exactly does the charter cover?
On the city's 10-year capital plan unfunded, there's currently a charter called Culture 030, and it's in 2031, and it's for 15.5 million. This concept that we are currently still working on, that is going to be the concept that we will bring to you in administration so that we can get a more realistic number into the project charter.
Okay, so okay, I'm a little confused now, so we're gonna have to backtrack it for me here. It's a long day for us already. Because I see here it has like to be completed in the rephase functional plan 2024, cultures are 09, 010, and 30, right? For the museum, the pavilion, and the event grounds. So in the back here, it says it's $7 million over the course of 2 years. And that is to cover what?
This one really speaks to the charter 030, not to the previous two.
Okay, so, and I feel like phase 1 and phase 2, or at least phase 1 has been done, or has it not been done? Have all 3 of these still pending to be done?
Yes, all three have to be done. This is looking at phase 3.
Okay, so do you know the cost for phase 1 and 2 yet?
The only figures we've got are the ones which come from the functional plan, which are in the 10-year municipal growth plan.
Okay, and so is the intention to skip 1 and 2 and go directly to 3 later, or is the intention to start at 1 and go sequentially?
That's a great question. I think when the concept is finalized, that might be a good time to revisit which phases we want to go with and when.
So let's just say hypothetically, like let's say somebody, because I just finished talking to Anne, who's currently not having sleepless nights over the lack of the money in our capital plan. So let's just talk about funding this for $7 million. But let's just say that it was funded. You're telling me, like, I guess, why are you bringing it forward now if you're not sure about the full functional plan yet? Because you're telling me you're still developing the functional plan, but then we have this being brought forward right now for consideration. So if it was brought forward and said, here's 7 million for a museum, which I feel is light in a cost, then like, I just, help me figure out your timing right now on this end.
I think when this concept is finalized, I think we could revise looking at phases 1, 2, and 3 and see how they all fit together and which ones would need to be broken out. So I think it's a little early to definitively say where this would lie.
So is the intention just to give us a heads up, but not really to have it funded at this moment?
Well, we would like it more than a heads up eventually. But the problem at the moment that we have is that we don't know what this museum would look like, and we don't know what the cost would be, and we don't know how it would fulfill other needs in the community. So I think what we're saying is we would love to bring this concept forward. We will chat to administration to find out how to do this, and then the discussions can start.
So you're not asking for the 7 million then? What would you be asking for?
These amounts that are being asked for are actually in the city's capital projects, not ours, but they are costs which have been identified through the functional plan.
But is the functional plan been approved? Like, did we pay for the functional plan, or you're asking to have the functional plan be funded?
I think I might have to refer to the city to ask.
Yeah, I was going to jump in, Councillor Hughes, and say, perhaps Ms. Budd could jump on and provide some context in terms of the liaison with Arts and Heritage on this file. I see her coming up. There she is. Please go ahead.
Can you see me? I'm sorry, I'm still just seeing the slide view, so.
Yeah, we can see you.
Perfect. Good to go. So I think, Councillor Hughes, you are asking about the charter that is currently unfunded for 2025?
Yes.
Yes. So that charter is part of the previously updated in 2024 Heritage Sites Feasibility Plan. Within that feasibility plan, it identified the need for a shift in entrance location to the sites, a visitor sort of center or washroom availability, and a agricultural pavilion. That work is still required, still necessary. What Arts and Heritage Foundation is speaking to is they have had received funding from the Canadian Heritage to get a more detailed understanding and plan of the museum site and location, which is the phase 3 charter, which is currently on the unfunded list, but further along in the 10-year plan. So they're just working through the confirmation of what would be within that concept plan. We haven't actually had a chance from the city's and administration's perspective to do an overlap to see if any of the concept plan would impact the washroom component, the agricultural pavilion need. So that we're still waiting for that to come to us for that validation. But at this point within operations, Heritage Site still needs another washroom. Currently, the only washroom available at the site is in the train station in the basement or porta potties during the summer. So there are absolutely components of that ask for phase one that are required.
So, thank you, Elizabeth. So, look, so I'm looking here. So what this, as I go back and look at this charter again, it says this is for the construction development of the event grounds and visitor center building. So the 7 million is to cover phase one is what I'm reading. And the visitor center building would be different than the train station. How? Like, what are we envisioning on that?
If I can jump in, when the road changes and the entrance to the site becomes just to the west of the grain elevator, visitors won't be coming past the train station. So what the functional plan did was put a visitor center in that place. So when people come down that road, there would be a visitor center. If this museum concept went through, you could potentially take that visitor center away because the museum would be there right in front of people. So that's where Elizabeth talked about the overlap. We would need to look at these plans together and find out what was still necessary and what this concept would take over.
Okay. And that, I appreciate all that. I'm just not sure Elizabeth went away. I'm gonna come back, but I guess why do we have the project charter now when it looks like there's still more information that we would like to acquire to figure out synchronicities?
Through to Councillor Hughes. It's very recent that the work towards the concept planning was started by Arts and Heritage Foundation. Within that concept planning, it was specific for phase 3 to the museum. So without having seen sort of what is included within that concept planning, our interpretation is that phase 1 and phase 2 were still required and that this was an update to what would be part of the museum.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Just trying to think if I had anything other questions, but I think that's it. Thank you for clarifying that. And thank you again, Anne. Like you write a really tight budget. We're not seeing a lot of like fluffy stuff in here. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. We'll go to Councillor Mackay.
Thanks for your presentation. Thanks. I'm just wondering, maybe along a similar line of being a little tight around, you get your professional fees are projected to increase only by 3%. And then that's carried over in some of your other projections around your operational expenses. Are you sure it's going to be right around that? Kind of like I'm looking at probably closer to 5%, wouldn't you? Or you're pretty confident in 3%?
We run a tight budget. Since COVID, we have lost staff. And so we have sort of changed the way that we operate. So we've been putting in more systems which don't rely so heavily on people. And so I think we're fairly confident that some of the systems that we've put in are helping us, and it has helped sort of make our staff more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, something like professional, that would maybe deal with your collections maintenance database, but your professional fees, I mean, you're kind of at the whim of the market and some of the other things that are out there at the time. So I'm just like, you base that off of kind of a scan of what's going on right now?
The professional fees are actually mostly our audit fee. And so we're pretty confident that that audit fee will stay, perhaps with 3%. The professional, the databases and things, those are included in I believe it's operational.
So it's not something along like your artist fees or collection, things like that. Those are kind of, aren't those a little bit fluid or flux as well, or?
Artist fees, we follow CARFAC, which are the professional artist fees. They have gone up considerably in the last 2 years. We actually had a 10% increase in funding from the Alberta Foundation for the Arts. And so that increasing from the AFA has helped with the increase in artist fees.
That helps, and I appreciate the earlier kind of clarification as it relates to the capital projects. It looks exciting. Looks very exciting, but I think there's still, unfortunately, a lot more work that has to come forward first. So.
Thank you very much. I think that's it for questions. Neil retracted it, so I think we're good. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Sorry, quick question, Anne. would we be able to get that presentation sent to us just to review it? That's okay?
Yes, it's
That would-
loaded, it's loaded onto this computer. Does that mean that administration have got it?
I gotta tell you, I have no idea if that means we got it or not, but we will make arrangements to ensure that it's taken care of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take 2 minutes as the St. Albert Public Library gets loaded up.
Yeah. For the office. Mariana, you just wanted a repetition? Or are you trying to make it show? I'm trying to share the screen. Yeah. Just like. But it's, for some reason, it's saying that it's unlicensed. And I don't know. I think, oh, I think we're good, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Probably. There.
Okay, we will keep moving. I'd like to welcome the St. Albert Public Library to present their budget for 2026. Thank you guys for coming.
So you're gonna use up and down, okay, thank you so much.
All right, hi, everybody. My name is Megan Deshane. I'm one of the board co-chairs for the library. Congratulations to our new mayor and new council members, and thanks for returning to the returning members. So I'm here today with Stephanie Feremsky. She is our community engagement manager at the library. We're going to talk to you today about the library's budget for 2026. As you guys know, the library is a municipal service governed by the council-appointed board under the Libraries Act and regulation. Our board takes its fiduciary and oversight responsibilities very seriously. We value our strong partnership with the city, and we're grateful for your continued support. So our 2026 budget is built to advance the library's strategic plan, which you can see up here on your slide. Here for you, here for all. We continue to focus on our 3 priorities: creating young readers through early literacy, participate and connect, community engagement, and pursue truth and reconciliation. Our strategic priorities support the city's priorities of fostering a vibrant downtown and community well-being.
Hi. So vibrancy is the word of the year for the library. All summer, both locations buzzed as people participated in our popular summer reading games in pre-pandemic numbers. Fall continues with the same energy, with expanded programming at Jensen Lakes, the excitement of a beloved and sold out St. Albert Readers Festival, and library activities at the city's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation at Mission Park. Oh, sorry. We also added programming for kids and teens in October to engage the community during the teachers' strike. Lastly, our former CEO, Peter Bailey, retired at the end of August after nearly 25 years with the library. Our new CEO, Laura Winton, will join the team in February 2026.
So our 2026 funding request is $5,018,700, a 3.9% increase from 2025. This will allow us to maintain service levels, address inflation, respond to growth, and advance our strategic priorities. Most 2026 budget lines remain flat, but the increase reflects an investment in our people through annualized salary costs. Our staff are the heart of St. Albert Public Library. Great people make great libraries. You can see all of our great people there.
Right. All right, the library continues to respond to strong growth. Memberships are up 6%, program attendance is up 18%, while in-person visits at Jensen Lakes are up 26%. Demand for our digital resources has also increased by 36%. Some targeted investments are needed, including a $60,000 contribution to our computer replacement reserve, which prepares for major capital costs, including the upcoming replacement of our automated material sorter, estimated at $250,000. Service levels in 2026 will stay consistent with 2025, including maintaining the increased operating hours and programming at Jensen Lakes, began in February 2025. Maintain reduced weekday morning hours at the downtown library, 9 to 10 a.m. we're closed. We continue to see significant increase in use at the Jensen Lakes Library, thanks in part to the continued growth in Northwest St. Albert. In-person visits continue to climb and have quadrupled since it opened in 2020. Families on the north side of the city are embracing this convenient location, the only public service on the north side of the city. And after-school programs continue to fill fast with waiting lists. We brought wait lists down by 300% by expanding programming in 2025. Thank you. Here's an overview of SAPL's budget from 2020 to 2026. So last year's increase brought our budget back to 2019 levels. We've absorbed significant growth and continue to deliver high-quality services through efficiencies. To maintain our service levels for a growing community, this modest increase we're asking is essential. So the library relies primarily on city funding with additional per capita support from the province. However, our provincial funding remains static at $379,000 since 2023, and it's still based on 2019 population figures, despite the fact that St. Albert has grown significantly. So we're actively advocating for an increase in that. Our popular summer reading game is highly successful, thanks in part to a generous donation from the McCoy Family Foundation. It's $40,000 for 3 years. Children who participated in the summer reading game read more than 1 million minutes for the 3rd consecutive summer. So that's up 22% over 2024 numbers. Pretty incredible. We are requesting a $93,000 increase for a community outreach assistant to support our outreach van service, which currently relies on 1 staff member. So demand is growing. In 2024, outreach delivered 180 programs to over 8,707 participants, which is up 12% from 2023, and 2025 numbers have already surpassed that. Outreach is bringing the library to the community, bringing it to parks, schools, senior homes, partners like St. Albert Senior Center and further education, and supports major city events like National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, National Indigenous Peoples Day, Canada Day, and more. Staffing was reduced in 2022 due to fiscal constraints. Adding 1 FTE restores capacity, reduces burnout risk, and ensures long-term viability, which is critical after recent program cancellations that were due to injury.
That is all we have for you today. We're happy to take your questions, but we do thank you for investing in inclusive, high-quality library services for all St. Albertans.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We will start with Councillor Hughes for questions.
I feel like I should go second or something because I keep hitting the button too quickly. Okay, I just got 3 questions for now. So this is just a general thing is that you have the proposed budget, you know, for 2026 and you don't really change the numbers for 27, 28. So feel free to actually just put in updated numbers of what you actually think it is. I know that the current our administration has changed that as of this year, where they're kind of giving a bit more of a projection of what they think staffing costs will be and that kind of thing. So, you know, you don't have to scare us, just tell us what it is. Okay. That was the first thing. The second thing, and then this is kind of a aside, but your ebook. So you have your amount of materials and it's pretty consistent. So how much are you devoting to the ebook category versus the regular book category? Do you have an idea?
It's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So when we budget for our materials, we do include physical and digital together. And then we do portion out an amount for digital. The audiobook need greatly surpasses the ebook one. So we really are adjusting it all the time, but I would love to get back to you with more information. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, because I know you guys got rid of the other one and you just are focusing just now on Libby, but the inventory of Libby still seems quite limited. Like you'll see the book and it's not available. Like we don't own it yet. So
Sounds like you've had that experience.
yeah, I've kind of had experience probably about 3 dozen times now. So that's why I'm just wondering like how much we're dedicating to improving that or what we think the projections would be of actually having because when forgive me, I forget the name that we were using before. I don't know why I don't remember it now because I took it off my computer probably. But you know, I know it was costing us more per book, but we had a larger inventory. And now it seems like I just don't know when that inventory on the ebook side from Libby will be substantial enough that it would be kind of addressing that demand.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get back to you. Absolutely.
Sure,
Thanks
that'd be
for asking
helpful.
that.
And the last question was the sales and user fees. So your 2025 revised budget is significantly less than the previous budgets of 2022 and 23. So 24, you have it as 105,000 and revised budget for 25 is 59. So I'm just curious what happened or what would justify that change?
That was under fees.
Yeah, the very
That-
first line.
I'm thinking that maybe has something to do with getting rid of overdue fees for children's material, teen material, maybe.
Maybe.
But I could definitely get back to you about that.
That would be helpful as well. I'm just like, there must have been a lot of fees for people with kids. Like they're taking up quite a bit of that
Yeah,
space.
we did also take that opportunity to clear up old fines, you know, that if some of them had amounted greatly. So it wasn't just from forward on removing, like having no fees, overdue fees for materials. It was also,
Yeah, sure.
oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
Go right ahead.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Mary Ellen. I work at the library as well. 15,000 of that was from the reduction of user fees for or overdue fees for children and teens.
Okay.
Materials. And then also the reduction because digital resources don't charge for late fees. So with the increase in use of digital resources, because the books are returned automatically, people aren't charged for late fees. So we're going to consistently see that number fall as the digital resources use increases.
So we were using a lot of, don't go away. So we were using a lot of resources, like we were using digital a lot in 2024 as well. So I understand the 15,000 for the kids. But is it just that a lot more people are using digital, period? Because I mean, the numbers have gone down by like, that's like a 40% reduction, right? So
For instance, Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory is a popular new book that we have.
Sure.
Right now, the physical copies have been loaned out 11 times this past year, and the digital copies have been loaned out 19 times. So that's just one example of how the usage is much higher on the digital resources comparatively to the physical copies.
Okay. And so I guess since you're here too, so the library of ebooks, is that like how fast are you growing it? Because I know it's limited because Libby costs more just to purchase each book. But how are you finding the collection increasing or do you know what I'm saying? Is it like a 20% increase year over year or what are you seeing?
I don't have a specific number for you
Okay.
on that question, but we could definitely take a BIR and get back to you.
Okay.
But I know that they're purchasing new items all the time.
Yeah.
And we've only been away from Hoopla for, since the end of April, so it's only been 5 months. And we didn't budget for that for that change to happen in 2025. So, you know, going forward, we can focus our efforts on building Libby more proactively. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Thanks, Councillor Hughes. I'm more of a coloring book guy, but that's different. We'll go to Councillor Bermansky. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to visit us and present today. I appreciate it. My questions are related to the outreach ban. So if you could clarify for me, the speaker's a little bit short, if you can hear me. If you could clarify for me if it's seasonal, what months you use it more, how many hours traditionally it's out per month, or whatever data you have, please.
Those are great questions. I'll see what I could do to answer now, but I could give you more details following up after. So, in terms of the seasonality of it, so it does definitely shine in the warmer months,
Summer,
that's for sure. So it's, you know, its peak season is going to be May to September. You know, so we've had some beautiful Septembers. But we do tend to we can keep ourselves really busy as the weather turns cold, because that's when we'll turn to visiting the seniors' residences. That's also when indoor activities present themselves, so such as the Halloween haunt that we were just at. That's when we go into classrooms, daycares. And so that's, yeah, further education. So we try to make the most out of the weather and be out as much as possible in those warmer peak seasons, but there is still lots to do in the colder ones. But I would love to get back to you with kind of hours and stuff like that.
Okay, and in those off seasons, would they be just doing special events, perhaps, you know, every couple of weeks, or how often would they be out?
So they would still be out multiple times a week.
Okay.
So for right now, for example, we actually have 2 of the multi-generational story time visits that are happening weekly at Ironwood Estates and also at Everett Gardens.
Okay.
So those are usually a 6-week series. We also regularly visit further education. That would be usually a story time series of 6 weeks, give or take. And then, yeah, those special events do come up, and then booking in with daycares, because we try to put them off in the summer months. We'll go into a story time at a daycare, but we'll visit kind of every age group room, and same with visiting schools, because the schools are in. So we're still out multiple times a week, less physically visible because we're not out at a park.
Okay. And how do those groups get you to come and visit them? Do they just book? I'm sure there's no charge for that, right?
There's absolutely no charge for that, but that is a great question. So there is a way to connect to the outreach librarian and that team on our website. But usually the way that these things come up is they've heard that we visit, so they just call us generally, and then we figure out what's best suited for them. Do they want to come visit us, or do they want us to come visit them? And then sometimes logistically, it is just easier and more cost effective for us to go to them. So it's usually by them visiting the library and hearing about it happening.
Okay, and when you go out to an event, say you have your assistant, your alternative person, are they a replacement for one person traditionally going out, or would 2 ever go out together?
Emily, our outreach librarian, she does it all, and she goes out by herself fairly often.
Okay.
If we're at an event that has multiple organizations at it, that's easier for her to, step away from. But if it is just her and it is multiple hours, that is generally where we're going to need someone to step in. And we do that right now. Somewhat, it is possible when we have somebody that's maybe just doing membership, so of a different position, that'll come in and step in. We've had to have that for Canada Day. That's such a busy day in the community. So when we go to service, we know from experience we need some extra folks. So right now, yeah, we're patching it together when we need somebody extra with somebody of a different position to fill in a very specific role during that, essentially to give breaks during that. But right now she's primarily on her own at those events.
Okay, and your ask for the position, would it be a person that already works for the library, or are you outsourcing?
This would be a pretty desirable position for somebody that wants to work in libraries. So we would likely post it externally, but internals would be welcome to apply. This would be like a library assistant of sorts. So they might have library background, but they could also have an education background. They could also have like maybe a museum background, like they could have a variety of backgrounds. Yeah.
Okay. And then the full-time hiring rate, that would be comparable to the current one that you have now?
So this, so the salary for this position is actually more like 71,000, and we're budgeting like a 21% of this is for benefits, because this is a benefited position. So this is basically a library assistant. And so this is a lower level than the current person that works in this position, who is a librarian. So this would also allow her to do more of the planning and organizing of all the outreach, figuring out how we can continue to make, support our community as it's expanding, and investigating different sites to visit, such as the playground in Churro, the new park that's being built in North Erin Ridge, Element Park. So they would probably be changing up some of their duties, because they would be two different positions there.
Okay, and if your assistant is replacing the librarian, is there a necessity for that person to be a librarian?
Well, they wouldn't be replacing them necessarily. They'd be increasing capacity, but yeah, they might go in place of. But sorry, what was your question?
Well, you had just mentioned prior that the first, your first employee might be off work for a period of time or whatever, and the second would be the replacement. So that's why I was asking if they were the same qualifications.
No, different qualifications. So we have a librarian right now, and this would be a library assistant. So
okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move it to Councillor Cortash.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. Couple of questions for you. One, did you say the provincial library grant is stuck on 2019 population numbers? Is that because they've frozen the grant at that level, or is it because we need to do another census, or like why is it 2019 numbers?
I don't really know that answer right now, but I do know that there is a group of library directors that are working closely with leaders in the provincial public library services branch to advocate for library services, and also to advocate for the update to that, because it absolutely is essential to get the most funding we can from the province. So yeah, I don't know. You have some good reasons of why it might be that way, but I don't have that right now, but I could get back to you.
That's okay. So, but that's a provincial thing. It's all libraries in the province are frozen at that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
correct. Yeah.
And then just to clarify on Councillor Bermansky's line of questioning, the outreach, the additional outreach business case that you're asking for, essentially you're going from 1 employee to 2 employees in the outreach. So that's going to essentially double capacity. That's the intention, is to double it. Okay. Lastly, does the library have a relationship with Sturgeon County or Sturgeon? Is there agreement? Do they provide library services? Do they pay us to provide?
That's a great question. So you're talking about library services in Sturgeon County, or?
Well, yeah, just I know we just recently, I think, signed a recreation agreement with Sturgeon County to provide recreation services for the county. I don't know if there's anything similar to the library. I seem to recall something in distant memory about cooperating with the county.
Yeah, well, for one, all libraries are friends, that's for sure. But the way that the province has organized the libraries is that some are part of systems and some aren't. So we are not. A system library would help provide kind of concentrated services in the area of collections, IT, that kind of thing. So the library in Sturgeon County is the Morinville Library. So when we get folks, we have tons of folks that come to visit us with Sturgeon County addresses, and we're happy to provide library services to them to some extent, but they need to get a library card in Morinville first, and they're part of the Northern Lights library system. So they are part of a different system. We're separate from them, but we're friendly with them if they call and have questions, but we don't share resources. We don't do shared programming, that kind of thing. However, with interest in offering services to Alexander First Nation. That's something that both libraries are interested in doing. There's a way to work together to look at funding that, and it would be funding from a provincial level that might allow something like that, but that's kind of uncharted territory. So in a briefer way, I could say that no, we're not connected at all, beyond just knowing that we can promote their services. There is a website called Me Libraries that has you can connect your library, the card, and then decide who else you want to be connected to. And Northern Lights is on there, so Morinville could connect. Does that make sense?
Maybe, so they don't pay for, they can use our library, but don't pay for it.
Correct. So, basically they, their funds go to the Morinville Library, and that also pays for the e-resources. So that's one of the things that is exempt from when they get a library card with us. They're often excited, can I get e-resources? And that is not the case. So no ebooks, no databases, those are only for residents. And then some of that provincial money is going to support things like the service that allows the books to be returned within the province. So a small amount goes to that. We do prioritize program attendance for St. Albert residents and things like that. So it's a great question.
Okay, thanks very much.
Of course.
Thank you, Councillor Cortash. We'll move it to Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question just regarding the full-time the community outreach worker. This summer, when you had the one worker out, were you having to pull employees from other departments to help to assist? And so then you were short in other departments because of that?
You got it.
Okay. Just curious. That was my only question.
Okay, I don't believe we have any other questions, so thank you guys very much for coming. It's
Thank
wonderful,
you.
and look forward to the follow-ups and the information you can provide us. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't believe there's BIRs or postponed motions to go through this afternoon. So with that, I will just call for a recess to this meeting. We will reconvene tomorrow, November 6th at 1 p.m. back here in council chambers. Thank you very much.